meow?
A meow!
Oh my god. That was a
Hi.
That was an enthusiastic meow.
Yeah, I was putting everything into it, dude.
By the way, thank you Card Knight for the 5 gift subs. Literally the second that I started stream, and thank you Knack for the 100 bits. We're getting ow in chat.
You're getting ow?
Ow? Let's go to the campfire. Wow.
Hey everyone!
Wow. Look.
Happy Pride!
It's all dressed up and ready to go.
It's all dressed up for the special occasion! Hey, pop quiz, what do all these flags mean? What do all the gay campfire flags mean?
Non-binary, LGBT, pansexual.
God damn, you're so smart.
I
had to look these up.
Why'd you have to look these up?
I didn't have to look these up.
I know.
Thanks for the ace flag boot. I'm so sorry. That's not the ace flag.
It is that.
I'm so sorry.
These are the ones that
I understand the mistake.
These cover
yeah, this
our
is us.
spectrum, and I don't think either of us are ace. I am a non-binary. I'm a non-binary.
Qweave is non-binary.
Individual.
I'm pansexual, and we're both lovingly queer. I've been trawling a lot of things, dude.
Dude, Boot's been talking to me. Boot's like, yeah, hold on, I'm looking up gaming. I'm looking up this interview from like fucking 20 years ago on archive.org or whatever. Boot's been doing amount of crazy research.
The amount of actual information about this that's really hard to find is crazy. There's so many just like interviews with people and general like news stories about shit from magazines that are now defunct.
Yeah.
Websites that don't exist anymore that I've had to like dig through.
There are so many game magazines that don't exist anymore, and their websites are completely wiped off the face of the earth. It's actually kind of sad.
One thing was posting about the Nintendo guidelines of 1982 that functionally removed gay characters from being allowed in video games, and after finding that, I was like, oh shit, that sounds really interesting. It's impossible to find normally. I found one link to it, and on, what's it called? Internet Archive. Clicking that link into there gives you, this link has unfortunately been removed from Internet Archive.
Oh, Nintendo.
So someone's trying to keep that down.
Probably.
So it makes me wonder what was going on. I can't give information about that.
I'm making Nintendo probably made a couple of executive decisions to not let people know that they were homophobic openly at some point.
Everyone talks about gaming preservation, but not talk about gaming journalism presentation. What was it called? It was literally just their guidelines for like ESRB and shit.
I'm gonna do all the hearsay and make stuff up, and that's the scary threat. Is if Boot says something, it's probably true. If I say something, it might be true or might not, and you have no idea. Yeah, I'm here to pull the wool over your eyes, which is something I think more college courses need. Is I think there should be 2 teachers, and one of them says right things, and the other one just says whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But unlike this, they wouldn't. This is not like the only hypothetical here is who would be in a gay Smash Brothers, and that solely serves as the framework to decide what characters we are talking about. This is not a totally off the dome type stream. This is not fibbing.
The way that you can imagine this is I originally wanted to play a ton of gay video games, but so many of them are this character shows up at the end of the game. This character shows up for like one chapter. This character is mentioned. And I just wanted to talk about all these like really interesting queer stories that have bled out through a ton of video games, and the way that seemed best to do that was just to talk about them all in a row, and the most interesting way to do that was to go, we're making a gay Smash Bros. 15-word version. What historical gay video game characters would be the best ones to put in a crossover fighter?
I think that was more.
Who's the most important? That was not 15.
You're way over
the second
15
part,
now.
there was a period. The second part was over. The first part was over.
I'll do a shorter version. Gay character games. Who? Find out.
Gay character games? Who gay character in video game? Huh?
Welcome to Super Smash Brothers Gaily!
Yeah. So this is the first opening one. You can kind of see what's going to go on here.
Right, so here's our roster. Our roster is up there. We have, how many slots is this?
I think it's 25.
We have 25. I'm not going to count it because that's too much effort, but there are roughly 25 slots available for gay characters you may know or may not know, and you cannot buy a vowel because I already eated all of them.
Yeah. You can make a guess if you want. Here's this one.
You can make guesses. Hey, chat. Who do you think number one is? I want to ask. Who do you think our first gay character is? This is one. I will say, this is easy. This is a softball.
This is the easy one. This is the biggest softball.
All right.
Every single person says Birdo. Hey, fire it up, Qweave.
Number one is Birdo.
It's Birdo. Entirely unsurprising. Is it fair to say that Birdo might be the most known LGBT character in video games? Would that be the case?
I don't feel like you're wrong, which is kind of funny. I think
which
that
is
Birdo,
ridiculous.
And it's kind of crazy that maybe the most recognizable, technically LGBT character in video games is a trans character of all things.
Yes. Birdo's not only one of the most known queer characters in video game history, they're also one of the first ones. If I remember right, the earliest Birdo's from 1989. I think we have a couple 1982s on here, a 1987. But as far as characters that are still occurring today, I think that 89 is actually wrong. The point is, as far as characters that are still appearing today, Birdo is one of the only ones that has appeared in like multiple video games. Which is really, really shocking. And in case anyone doesn't know, about Birdo's history, why, for example, Birdo is considered a queer character. Birdo is very famous for the instruction manual of Super Mario Bros. 2, typing, Birdo, quote, he thinks he is a girl and spits eggs from his mouth. He'd much rather be called Birdetta.
I forgot that Birdo wants to be Birdetta, and no one respects that fact.
No, here's the thing. I think that Birdo is a developing personality throughout the years, and part of the driving fact of that is she was fucking around with things, and she eventually got her name. Fuck, we've all been dead naming her. No, believe it or not. So that is a translation. That's a mistranslation of Doki Doki Panic. Doki Doki Panic has an entirely different description, which is very similar, saying, describing this character in Japan is named Catherine, thinks they're a girl and spits eggs from their mouth. Call them Kathy, and they'll be in a good mood.
Oh,
which is a very different one.
What's going on, Kathy?
Which is just like, if you're like being sweet with her, she has a preferred name. And I do like that she's called Catherine. I do like that. So in case you're curious, part of the reason why I think Birdo's an interesting character to talk about is the sort of way that she has developed over time. And I'm going to read you a couple of things that are just like the way that has progressed. Here's that same instruction manual from Super Mario Advanced. It now says, watch out for Birdo's special egg attack. The best way to deal with Birdo is to catch the eggs and toss them right back. Once again, in Mario Mania, this prehistoric pink creature can be spotted all over Subcon, the setting for Hit Super Mario Bros. 2. It guards several gates in the land and spits eggs towards approaching trespassers to ward them off. And you'll notice Birdo's now lacking of all personality, quote-unquote, and also entirely devoid of being gendered. Which loops around to why I think that Birdo's an interesting character, because
too, so
you'll notice throughout this whole sort of thing, the perspective towards queer characters sort of really evolves over time from being kind of a joke to being kind of insulting to being we probably shouldn't talk about this to being some level of accepted. And go on.
I was gonna say it is funny that it stops being joke and just turns into like obscured thing that is completely not referenced in any way.
So try not to kill Birdo. That's your challenge. Your challenge is don't hurt Birdo.
Alright, I guess kill me, Birdo. Like, what?
No, you don't have to kill her. You can just crouch. I think you'll survive. Oh.
I cannot crouch and survive.
Okay, well, I think you can stand to the right of the blue and survive. What's interesting is this wasn't gone forever. The role of Birdo wasn't gone forever. Oh yeah, on top of the thing. Oh my god. Here's a very interesting one. This is from the Japanese website for Mario Kart Double Dash, which was Birdo's like first playable character appearance, I'm pretty sure.
I think so,
this is something that I always thought was crazy. Don't you gotta move on? No, I'm gonna talk about this one a lot. Birdo's actually a really good jumping off point for a few reasons. Here's a quote. Yoshi's girlfriend looks like she's actually a boyfriend. Bring your eggs and join the race.
Dude, are they fucking trying to clock Birdo?
a really strange thing to say, but also says that she's Yoshi's girlfriend, which is entirely new.
So now
this stream is
Birdo...
giving Major G4 vibes. I'm glad about that. I'll happily take that.
I'm Adam Sessler.
So we've talked about a lot here about Birdo's strange negativity and weird development as a character to being like, bring your eggs. Yeah, she throws eggs in that game. And I've talked about how Birdo was this weird joke about men and cross-dressing and women, which is a very common thing in Japan. But they eventually became We Don't Want Backlash. And in the recent years, Birdo's been kind of back.
Birdo's back in a big way.
Birdo's back in a really weird way. I'm gonna play. I have a few Birdo clips to play. Okay? I can send you a couple.
Okay, send me your finest Birdo clips.
I'm going to send you 2 Birdo clips. The first one is Birdo being arrested for using a women's restroom.
What?
From Captain Rainbow. In case anyone doesn't know Captain Rainbow was a video game only released in Japan about forgotten Nintendo characters. It was like an Island of Lost Toys sort of vibe. And the idea was all of these characters that nobody gives a shit about, nobody knows of, all live together, and you hang out and you do adventures. It's kind of Tulip-like type video game. Is Captain Rainbow on the list? Sadly, no. But Birdo was gone from the consciousness because they were confused about this thing. This has a timestamp, you're all set.
I'm gonna play this video.
Yeah, go for it. You can skip ahead like 1 second. There we go.
I don't need to skip ahead 1 second.
This was Birdo's first like appearance in a video game in a really long time. People don't know about this. And it is a cop showing up and arresting her. But I think this is an interesting one to talk about because when people talk about Birdo's gender and that being like a thing that they don't fucking talk about, this is coming back to you kind of like Epic Mickey. Yeah, people don't know about this. You can skim out until it gets through. There's a lot of skipping you can do in this video. But I think this is an interesting one to talk about. I think he's named after when people talk about Birdo's gender and that being like a thing that they don't fucking talk about, he's featured. This is her whole fucking plot point. I just think it's so weird.
Oh my god, Birdo fucking swears. Birdo's a cussin' Carl. Dog?
I think he's named after something, but...
Oh, I guess a Cussin' Kathy.
Saying what? Cussin' Kathy, yeah. Remember seeing the ad where Kathy is featured? Yeah, it's like...
She swears a lot.
I just think it's so weird.
Oh my god, Birdo.
This game is a fan translation.
Look on your face. Carl, dog, what the hell?
Let Birdo say fuck.
Kathy, if I want to make her
Cussin'
happy,
Kathy, yeah, Cussin' Kathy. So you just solved the cop trouble,
she swears
too.
A lot. She just called someone a bastard.
This game is a fan. So the cop is now arresting Birdo because he has a job back. Let Birdo say fuck. Okay, you can skim ahead just a little bit. Wait. Yeah, wait, here we go. So you just I think this is another translation. Damn, Birdo's badass. Birdo is badass. This one's like, there's gonna be a few like short/long videos here. I think they're fun to like watch.
I feel like Birdo is also gonna be one of our more long entries because this is like our jumping off point, right?
Yeah, and this is like telling you on the whole point of what we're doing. You adore Sailor Mouth Birdo? I actually really like Birdo's portrayal.
Uh-oh.
Birdo's here like, man, I hella got a shit. If I remember right. This game is so surreal. This game is really interesting.
Oh, there's Birdo!
It's really weird.
Crazy tulip type song. I thought I was going
very
to
tulip like.
Stop talking about your shit, Birdo! Nobody likes that.
Black girl shit, Qweave.
Oh no. Oh my god.
Yeah!
Oh my god.
Yeah!
Birdo gets hate crimed by the police.
Birdo gets hate crimed canonically, and they bring up her XY chromosomes.
And they put her in jail.
You can skip to 1120.
Okay.
In case you're wondering, the mission of this is you need to find proof of Berto's femininity, so she says to go to her house. Yeah. You can go, like, exactly 1120. Fuck 12. Transphobic fuckhead robot.
Hold on. It's Berto's dresser, everybody. Want to open Berto's closet?
Captain Rainbow, kill that guy. What could possibly prove that Berto's a woman? Berto's doll.
What? Hey, Captain Rainbow, what's that sound?
Oh.
Oh, there's something here.
You got the female proof. So in case anyone has ever questioned Berta's actual womanhood, this game does delve very much into it.
Berto has been
Berto is
discriminated against by the police, and also has a vibrator.
There's two more things I'm going to say about Berto. These are the last two. I'm going to link you one more clip.
Okay.
This is the Berto musical from Sticker Star. A game that nobody has ever played in their fucking life. No one has ever played this video game.
Oh, this shit goes fucking crazy. Hold on.
She's a musical person now. She's a musical piece. You play Sticker Star? Okay, well maybe I think that other people don't.
Oh my god. Hold on a fucking moment. Is this... Berto, these are some interesting lyrics.
She sings a musical number about how the heart of a woman and the heart of a man can both know the grace of love.
And also makes an egg joke and gives you a goat.
Yeah, the goat thing's there. This was the best part of Sticker Star, low bar. No, so the thing is that...
I don't want you to see my recommendation.
Berto's current role is the sexy one. And Berto's been back in a big way. Berto's back in Mario Party. Berto was a big release for Mario Kart that got a trailer specific for her. People popped off. She was actually the best character, might still be. She's in the newest one, and all the Sticker Stars, she's the baddie. She has a recurring theme. Why'd she have a goat? Because they need a fucking goat. It's Mario Kart. She's an Origami King and just like a fucking, what's it called? She has like a dance on top of the counter for a bunch of people.
She has like a bunch of musical numbers in the more recent Paper Marios, and it might be one of the only good things about them.
And then the last thing I'll say on Berto, with regards to representation and the slow evolution of Nintendo's ashamedness at creating this character, is that for the first time, they outwardly specifically say Berto's just a woman. In Mario Kart, where she is included on the Women in Racing poster, alongside Daisy and Princess Peach. Which is a huge moment that we should all be very proud of. This was before she was playable, by the way. They said, she's got to be on here. She's accepted, let's ride.
Berto has fully become...
Do you have general music playing also? Because I think that we're going to be talking for a little bit.
Okay, I have not had general music playing, but I can play general music. Yeah, I think we're going to get to some shorter ones. A half hour in and we got one character done. Berto is one of the girthier characters on this list, I think.
I've got a lot to talk about on everything.
Yeah, but also Berto does have like a video game and multiple videos. And hey, Chad, how do you feel about Berto as representation? I think that's a really good question for you.
What I'm saying here is like Berto's evolution, quote unquote, from what that character existed at to somehow this idea of like, okay, we want this character to exist as something, is very appealing to me. The idea of the fact that where Berto is now is wonderful.
For me, I think that's a good question to ask after a lot of these is, what does chat think about the representation provided by this character? What is your personal opinion?
That was a good one. The next one's a bad one. So I'm in my head, I sort of have these as sections, right? There's a section on this section is mainstream Nintendo consoles. Okay.
All right.
This is an example of bad representation, which is the most decent one that I could possibly put in here. Bring it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's Jolly Roger from Banjo-Tooie.
I have never seen this thing in my life.
You've never seen this thing?
I've never seen this thing in my entire life.
You've never seen this character in your life?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I haven't played Banjo-Tooie.
Queer characters fall into two camps through the development of characters in history. And the first one is functionally, okay, we're making this as a joke and it's to be mean, and then slowly becoming a real character. And another one that's maybe 50%, probably more than that, probably 80% of queer characters in video games, is this is a horrible, horrible caricature that exists exclusively to be like insulting, and it's almost like embarrassing to see. I'm linking you a clip of Jolly Roger from Banjo-Tooie. For anyone who doesn't know.
So I know this guy has a famous bay in Mario 64.
Yeah, this is the Jolly Roger of Jolly Roger's Bay.
Alright, everybody. Hey, chat, buckle in. Oh, dude, Kazooie. Awesome, I love Kazooie.
Oh, is this guy gay? Okay, hey, Jolly.
Oh, he has like a gay talk sound?
Yeah, pay attention to his talk sound. Let's start from the top, start from the top.
Ooh.
His partner's gone missing, is the plot line of this level.
Oh, she. Okay, so Jolly Roger is straight.
Oh, you'd think that. You'd think that. See, they do this strange thing in this one, dude, where you can see.
Oh my god, he does the gay hand. He does the little limp wrist movement.
It's ridiculous.
But he's.
It's also worth noting the big. Oh, pause. Hey, look at that sign. Look at the menu options that they have for sale at Jolly Roger's. Let
me go
at
back.
Jolly Roger's beautiful establishment.
Hold on.
I might be able to get a look at it. So, if you can't read this, it says today's specials are salty dumplings, Toad in the Hole, and Seaman's Surprise.
Oh, man.
And in case any of you have ever been curious, this is what queer characters were in video games for maybe 2 decades. And this is a light one. When I was researching queer characters in video games, it might surprise you to know that maybe a third of them were from Leisure Suit Larry, and they were all this.
Oh my god, he loves dancing to the Salty Seaman Shanty, by the way.
Yeah, he loves the Salty Seaman Shanty. Here's Jolly Roger's partner.
Oh, man.
Who you do save, and has a very oppositely pitched talk sound. In case you're wondering what's going on here.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Oh, fuck off.
This sucks.
Thanks, Rareware. I thought this one was very interesting to bring up because nobody fucking knows about this. And it provides an important sort of position of what queer characters were sort of perceived as and presented as.
Jolly Roger was a 2-for-1 homophobic and transphobic joke duo.
Yeah, they did dump it in, and you can guess what her talk sound sounds like.
Deeper than Jolly Roger's.
Yeah, no, by quite a bit, quite a bit.
Just guessing.
Yeah, it was a good guess.
Throwing out some crazy guesses that I've come up with.
If you interact with him once you've saved her, he does tell you, how about me and my partner drop by your room later for a nightcap?
Oh, so they want to do a threesome with you.
When you buy something from him, his dialogue is, okay, big boy, show me the money to Banjo.
I don't think I'm very into Jolly Roger.
They're not very into Jolly Roger.
I do not feel very seen by Jolly Roger.
You don't feel seen?
I feel seen, but I feel seen in exclusively a negative way. I wish that they didn't see me.
Fuck you, Grant.
Yeah, but hey, Grant Kirkhope, why'd you make this fucking thing?
We should talk about rocks. I think You feel hated by Jolly Roger. I think every gay character is important. I think this is queer solidarity. It's important to have Jolly Roger on this list.
Are we moving on to our next entry?
Do any of you know the first video game to have gay marriage?
I would love to hear what people think. Sims, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team?
No. So, the colloquial one, the one that people tend to say.
No.
The one that you'll see very often is Fallout 2. We do not have Fallout 2 on this list. Fallout 2 has a cutscene where you go into someone's house and you sleep with one of two people, non-depending of your character. You can either sleep with the man or the woman. Either one, their dad walks in on you after you have sex, holds you at shotgun point and says, "This is horrible. The only way you can make this right is by marrying my son/daughter." And you get a gay wedding that's permanently for the remainder of the game. You're married to your respective partner, and they are the worst companion in the game, and they die extremely easily, and they are horrible to have around you in every way.
This is a fact that is cited so commonly. Wikipedia confidently says Fallout 2 has the first ever gay marriage in it, for reference. So this is a frequently cited factoid.
So that's not actually the first one. It's interesting to touch on, because that's probably a much bigger one than this one that I'm going to find. Qweave, can you bring up the next one?
Our next competitor in Super Smash Bros. Melee is Sierra Sam!
The Sierra Sam. Does anyone know who Sierra Sam is?
I don't think anybody at all.
You don't think anybody knows who Sierra Sam
is? This is a literally who to people, I think.
Okay,
this is a DLC character that gets people mad when he gets unveiled.
I'm gonna link a video. You could play this from the start.
Okay.
We're getting into the Scribblos now. This is not a Scribbler. This is an anime sword fighter. This could be the Marth of the game. Inarguably, like, this is a great character.
This is the Marth.
You can start from the beginning and then come back to the timestamp I'm at.
Oh god.
You put Sierra Sam into Google and they not show up at all. This character, I don't know if they're named Sierra Sam anywhere other than the manual.
Hold on. Let's watch this video, okay, everybody?
He is from a Japanese game that has been translated as Great Greed.
Great Greed.
This is a eco-friendly adventure game about you wandering and a witch named Microwave teleports you into her realm to save them from, I think the villain's name is Toxics? I'll double check. Let me grab this for you because I think this is probably an interesting thing.
The world of Green Kingdom. The world of Green Kingdom is rich in natural beauty.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The villain's name is Biohazard Harry.
Oh, okay, that's a lot different from Microwave.
No, Microwave is the hero. Microwave teleports your world. See, from Biohaz.
Oh, Biohaz. Oh, Microwave.
Microwave is under attack.
Find his dirty little secret.
Biohazard Harry, who in-game is referred to as Biohaz.
I think this is awesome.
So you can skim to any point throughout this game, just to, like, show some off. This isn't a particularly queer video game. It's a standard RPG with a relatively interesting combat system. Yeah! Yeah!
Oh, defeated Fireball! Yes!
Every time that you save one of the 7 princesses, they join your party and they are a fellow person. There's lots of... It's a very quirky video game, strange fucking enemies. Biohaz is polluting the world, and Microwave, who lost her power, is getting your help to save them and kill them. Has a lot of weird levels. There's a record factory where you spin around on records. There's a corrupt politics level. And it's a really interesting little story. Every character is named after a food item, which is why there's a wizard made Microwave. This game is not homophobic, thank fucking god.
Can I skip to the timestamp?
Thank fucking god. Yeah, you can skip the timestamp.
Alright.
Spoilers for Great Greed.
Yeah, if you're planning on playing Great Greed after stream, there are going to be some spoilers here.
Technically, not everything. At the end of the game, you save the thing, and King Green graciously offers by saying, "I want you to marry one of my daughters." And you get the choice between any of your party members that you could have with you. And there's 2 guards, and you get a little dialogue from everybody.
And now, you did save all these princesses, so I'm assuming those are the intended marriage choices.
That first princess there is named Cupcake. She's 11 years old. If you try to marry her, the king says we have to wait for her to grow up first, so you can't. She's getting... You can pause on this for a second. Gumdrop says, I'm marrying Pint, so you can't choose me. You can.
Oh, okay.
If you talk through her dialogue 3 times, she says, okay, I guess Pint will understand. If you're getting what I'm sort of putting down here, you can marry every single character on this screen, including the king's 2 guards. Who are both presumably male. One of them has a helmet on, they're both presented as male. You can also marry the king, who will say, but I'm married to the queen, and then says, I guess she'll understand if you choose that. And when you marry him, his dialogue is, I miss my wife.
But Sierra Sam!
So Sierra Sam
can just take any man he wants because he is a bisexual king.
Sierra Sam is a bisexual king who goes on an adventure in the Green Kingdom. And in doing so, you can marry whoever you want at the end.
Is there any video of him marrying one of the guys?
This playthrough has him marry Microwave, the old witch who brought you here.
Okay,
which is honestly, cool. That's the big brain pick. I think that's like one of the good ones. But literally, you can marry every single character. Oh yeah,
the king does start saying, "What are you gonna get by marrying?"
See, look, she's like, "What? I'm married to the king.
She is my wife." This is so funny.
Thank you, but I absolutely can't disappoint. By the way, they emphasize this because they do have a child together.
You can wreck so many homes.
You can home wreck Pint.
Sierra
so,
Sam
alright, I understand. I will accept it. And every single character says that eventually. And then the beginning of the new Green Kingdom. And you have a big feast. And everyone comes out and dances for you.
But you can choose to end this game by marrying a man.
Yes. Making Sierra Sam the first bisexual king and the first appearance of gay marriage in a video game.
And this is funny because to me, it feels like marrying one of the dudes. It feels like it is a joke, but it's also not like a hideously offensive joke. It doesn't necessarily poo-poo on anything. It's just like kind of funny.
It's interesting the casualness that they're not like, what? You want to marry a man? They're just like, hey, don't you want to marry one of the princesses?
Oh my god,
okay.
This predates Fallout 2's first ever gay marriage by 6 years.
By 6 years.
So, hey, if anyone wants to update Wikipedia, Great Greed shits on Fallout 2, as it turns out. How do we feel about this piece of quote-unquote representation? Because this feels like it's a very weird sort of representation where the character is clearly not really intended to be read as like a gay man, but incidentally, because the devs thought it would be funny, he is, or has the option to be.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's kind of fun is exactly the right answer, especially for a weird, cute video game about saving the world from biohaz.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I actually really want to play this. Going through research, I think this is the game that I left with the most, like, this would be a fun one to go through.
Yeah, I like this one a lot as far as funny bits of representation go. I think that Great Greed kind of goes crazy. I like Sierra Sam.
Now, the next one's not Nintendo, but they were on the GameCube.
Oh,
it is Ike! Sorry, I forgot the order of this. I had them ordered wrong.
I was about to say...
Okay, I can talk about Ike from Fire Emblem.
I was about to say, I do not have
Spoilers,
this game.
I don't remember my order. It's Ike from Fire Emblem. Hey, everybody.
I fight for my friends.
I fight for my friends. Boot gaslight us. So this one's really interesting, because I hear about Ike being a gay character a lot.
Yeah, people, when we were playing Subspace Emissary, a lot of people said Ike is gay.
And I was always curious, okay, what's the origin of this?
You have a video
the
for
thing
me?
I have, Dragoon21XX says his boyfriend Soren is openly racist. First of all, that's the whole plot of the game is about racism being bad, and the characters who are racist at the start of it aren't at the end. So that's fun for you. Second of all, guys, it wasn't made by Nintendo. Nintendo was made by Intelligent Systems. There's interesting things for this. So the big thing, the driving thing for Ike being gay is a couple of factors. The main one being that Fire Emblem has these things called paired endings, which is if you are A rank or S rank or whatever with one of your supports, you get a special little cutscene or ending that involves the two of them going on an adventure together and going on with their life. Now, throughout up to this point, this is Fire Emblem 9 and 10, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Up to this point, every single paired ending was the character getting married. In Fire Emblem 1, Marth's paired ending is getting married. In Fire Emblem 2, Om's paired ending is them getting married. In 3, Marth is already married, so it doesn't have a paired ending. In Fire Emblem 4, Sigurd gets married. In Fire Emblem 4, Part 2, you play as their child. Fire Emblem 5 is in between of that. Fire Emblem 6, Roy can marry one of 6 different women.
Oh, awesome.
With 6 alternate endings.
Good for him.
In Fire Emblem 7, Eliwood can marry one of 3 different women, who all have paired endings. In Fire Emblem 8, there's a male and a female protagonist. The woman can marry one of 4 men, the man can marry one of 3 women, and those are all of the paired endings. Now, Fire Emblem 8, here comes, Fire Emblem 9, here comes Ike. There's another protagonist in the game. I don't know how to fucking pronounce her name, but there's a female side protagonist. She gets a paired ending with another man where they get married. Ike is the only character in that entire game, up to that point, who has a paired ending with a character that's not a woman, and he has 2 with different men. Which is already, if you want to like dwell on that and be like, okay, you can kind of read that. And by the way, that paired ending is the 2 of them disappear forever and go on their own adventure without anybody else.
Okay.
2 with men? Eh? There's 2 different ones. It's funny that you mentioned he's got that great ether, because there's eventually a character in Fire Emblem who says he's descendant of Ike, which people say that wouldn't make sense if Ike was gay. A big thing that people say is that character has Ike's sword, which apparently in-game is a nothing weapon. It's not like a signature weapon, it's just a sword that he completely gives up at a certain point and doesn't give a shit about. He just has a big heavy sword that he doesn't care about at all. And that person who claims to be Fire Emblem Ike's descendant, another gimmick of marrying a Fire Emblem character is that when you breed a child, you can give them your best move. Your best move gets passed on, and they learn your signature move. Ike is the only one that can learn Great Ether. His Ether move doesn't go down despite being his main move, and his most powerful move, too. So that one's completely distincted from his bloodline, quote-unquote. Which has driven a lot of Fire Emblem fans to say he just thinks he's related to Ike and has been rolling with it.
He's just some fucking kid that maybe found Ike's sword at some point because it was a random nothing weapon, and he was like, well, maybe
I'm descended from Ike.
This guy. I look kind of like him. And nobody knows where he went because he disappeared somewhere with a guy.
He disappeared with some man forever, and nobody knows what fucking happened to this mercenary man. Who, by the way, throughout the entirety of Fire Emblem 9, gets flirted with by tons of women. Tons of women try to come onto him, and the entire game, he either doesn't give a shit about them, or he actively is, like, really uncomfortable with them coming onto him. It's worth noting that Ike has 2 games, Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. In Path of Radiance, Ike, what's it called? He has a female companion that he travels with, that you expect to be a couple, and they're spending time together at the ending, and that's the first game. And the second one, which is a direct sequel, she is split off from him entirely for unexplained reasons. So that's gone. All the paper is pointing here. The paper trail is slowly leading to someone. And I have a clip.
Oh, Ike. Aw.
Dude. Okay, so you can do normal speed. We're near the end here. So notice what's going on here.
It's kind of hard to not notice.
Like, oh my fucking god,
His
man!
model moves over.
He comes to him so he can cry in his arms because he's too scared to come to him himself.
That's like,
and I see that, And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Nintendo Wii Yowie? And then they have an ending of the game where the two of them go on an adventure together forever and they're never heard from again. And I think that's such a cute little scene. That's such, like, a legitimately touching, cute little scene.
I think that it's really funny to call this,
And to have all of that, it's like, yeah, he's probably gay. I think, without outwardly saying a character is gay, you're telling me these people are homophobic and denial about them? No, absolutely. I think, without explicitly saying
yeah, I was gonna say
a character is gay, without explicitly saying a character is gay, I think this is literally as close as you could get a character to being gay. This is as close as you could possibly get, to enough of a degree that I'm willing to slap Icon here with a big thumbs up. And the main reason he's here over Soren is because, one, people know who fucking Ike is, and two, he's the only shared character between this and Straight Smash Bros. So, big ups. Big ups, like, oh, by the way.
Yeah.
Final thing. This game does also have a canonical and explicit lesbian in it.
Kind of huge.
Which, I don't know if people know, but there is a woman whose main reason for joining your party is she wants to hook up with cute warrior girls.
That's kind of awesome. This is from a Nintendo GameCube game in 2004. And it is unusual to see a relationship between two men that is something like this from that time period in any kind of media really at all. And also, Ike being a character who, but what Boot said, you know, rejects the advances of a bunch of people and does not have any endings, really has like a significant ending with this character. I think it's, like I said, not explicitly a gay thing, but it's very easy to see why so many people see it as such.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very easy to see. It's very easy to see people feeling like, oh, hey, I like kind of has that going on more than anyone else in this series does.
Yeah. And the lesbian's name is Heather. Heather is the character who is a lesbian. Having played through all of the Radiant series, they are certainly gay.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's enough talk about it. Like, let's see what's up!
Our next character is...
It's Knights! From Nights into Dreams! This is the one I thought was in the next spot. I was wrong. I wasn't looking at my own notes.
Hold on. I forgot that I actually have this game and have to play it.
Qweave has this on Steam.
I do own this game.
So, Knights is non-binary. Very explicitly. And I have a very good quote from the developer with regards to Knight's gender, which I actually think is a very interesting thing to take on it. So, Knights had existed prior, before Nights into Dreams, which was a GameCube game. It might have been on one of the fucking Segas before. It's from the year 2000. And that was the first game where Knights had a voice. And the voice was just through a general thing. And I'm trying to recall, I believe that Knights has a female voice actor. Was the driving thing that people said, like, hey, it's weird that this character that I thought was a man the entire time has a female voice that's so high-pitched. One of the first things I looked up while trying to find this was that there's a mod for this game that lowers Knight's voice. Or there's an edit of all the cutscenes. I was trying to find all cutscenes from Nights into Dreams just to play for fun. And in my attempt to find that, what I came across was one that was just like, oh, here's all the cutscenes with Knight's voice lowered because I don't like that. They sound like a girl. Which is the funniest shit in the world.
Knight, can you please launch, buddy?
If it's not launching, we can just play video. I don't think it's the worst one.
It just took
Yay!
Knights was taking their sweet time.
So this is a interview with Nintendo Life from December 2007 with Takashi Iizuka, I think. Iizuka. And this is regarding Nights into Dreams. So here's a segment. Let me find this one. So I'm going to read this quote regarding Knights. He commented on the decision to give Knights a voice. When asked whether the boyish female voice meant that Knights was a girl, oh, you go up to the... Jesus Christ!
Oh.
Get to the platform.
I'm trying. Why are you yelling at me? Oh,
there we go. Now. Hi, Knights! Qweave is going to try and figure out how this game works.
I don't know how this works at all, and my controls are so weird.
This might be one of the worst games to play with a keyboard. You're going backwards.
This is almost unplayable on keyboard.
Oh, you're getting it.
I'm figuring it out. I'm gonna play.
Okay. Back. So you go through adventures and you fly around and you collect things. This game actually looks fucking tight. Anyways, here's the quote. When asked if the boyish female voice meant Knights of the Girl, he said, "He's a mirror of the child's personality. So when the children dream, they become him. So from a boy's point of view, Knights will be a boy, and from a girl's point of view, Knights will be a girl. We expanded in the sequel, so we don't need to have Knights speak in this game to get more reaction." So the driving factor of Knight's gender is the fact that they're a genderless creature of dreams who shapes their personality off of whatever user is becoming them in their dream world. Which is a really fun thing to be an explicit character trait. I adore that. I think for, like, a magical little fairy creature who flies through rings and lives within the dreams of children, the idea of going, yeah, they're a genderless entity. You want to be a genderless creature of dreams? My wonderful chat member, you could be.
Yeah, you just gotta
There's
go to
nothing
sleep
stopping
in the
you.
Knight's universe. I guess you could also just do it, like, in a different way, but...
So,
I have
unfortunately...
no idea how you play this game.
Yeah. So I would say that Knights is some level of gender fluid. I think you just have to get every right. Even though you don't know how to play this game, this looks really fun.
It's fun moving around in Knights.
Like, it's fun to fly around. Oh, you're doing laps. Okay. Oh. This game has a weird proto-Chow Garden in it. Oh, did you win? Bonus times. Oh my god. You tried to explain it, but it's so hard to explain. You're literally just going around in circles and drawing rings. Ah! Oh my goodness! Okay, so that's everything I have to say about Knights into Dreams. Oh, it's that game they based Sonic Adventure Pinball? Yes, it is! And Knights is one of the more explicitly genderless characters on our ranking. Which I think is a really fun thing to see, for a game that people love.
I feel like this is an interesting one, because it's one of those things that feels like it's not necessarily overly intentional, like, representation, but
yeah.
it works as it in a very effective way anyways, and also it sounds like it's not at any point a thing that was a joke or portrayed as, like, funny. It's always been just like, yeah, this is cool.
I really wanted to include this one, because up to this point, pretty much every character has been, oh, this was a gag.
Yeah,
this was a joke. This is a mean-spirited joke. This was a normal joke.
This is reading between
the lines. This is basically censored. You have to read the lines. Knights is, I think, one of the most explicitly and intentionally genderless characters in this entire game. Kind of like Kirby. Honestly, yeah, kind of like Kirby. Even though I think Kirby is a boy.
This is word of God in the LGBTQ spectrum, and you cannot argue with it or say, no, the person who made this is wrong, because they made it.
Well, I'm grabbing an image of my actual thing, so I use next. Okay, now, Qweave, you have to open your SNES emulator for this one.
You mean I have to turn on my SNES? Yeah,
you have to turn on your Super Nintendo for this one. Kirby's not Baron in Japan. I wish I fucking knew that. I wish I knew that. That Kirby should be on here. Kirby should be on here. That's the edit. One of these things coming up later is almost a joke. Kirby will be on there. Pretend that Kirby DLC 1.
Floopy, when you edit this, can you just put a little Kirby at the bottom right of the roster?
And use the sound effect.
There?
Use the sound effect where he goes,
I was going to say, have him go, do his little voice, or he's like,
Kirby's DLC. Yeah, Kirby's, Toast Story would be awesome. Anyways, we have 2 more Nintendo characters. I'll give you a hint. None of these characters come from before or after 2010. Run it, Qweave! Run it!
Our next character is Tony!
It's Tony from Mother. Midway through the game, Ness and Paul are in a pickle, and they need some help. So, Paula summons one of their friends with her psychic powers. That friend is Jeff, who becomes your third-party member, and while Jeff is trying to escape to go help them for no reason, Jeff hangs out with his wonderful little friend named Tony. We'll see him in a second. This is probably the earliest gay character that I know of. They're in a fuzzy pickle. It's really interesting. You did forget about Tony when the stream started. I'm going to read this quote. So as you play through this game until we get some cutscenes, I'm going to read a couple of things from an interview. This one is from, I think, a 2009 interview. And this is Shigatsu Itoi, the creator of Mother, talking about, quote-unquote, deeper meaning from an interview with Hobonichi from 2009. He describes the game. I'll talk about this after we start, after we meet our beautiful boy. I think Tony's awesome. People were really weird about him in the Earthbound fandom. And in the same way, people in the Earthbound fandom back in like 2008, they treated him very much like a Jolly Roger. Which is what I'm going to refer to every single gay like stereotype character as from now on, because I think that's a really fun way to do it.
Bad representation is a Jolly Roger type character.
People treat him like a Jolly Roger. This character's not a Jolly Roger in any way. Hi, Jeff. Talk to your friend Tony. Isn't this one-sided? Tony loves Jeff, but Jeff isn't gay.
I just dreamt that you and I were taking a walk.
I think you can wake him up. I think you can leave, and he'll start coming with you. I think if you leave to the right, then he joins your party.
Jeff, where are you going in the middle of the night?
So, he's your party member for while Jeff's going out. And he's your best friend.
Alright, man. Hey, thanks.
So I'm going to read this from this interview as you run around through the first bit of Winters in Earthbound. The toy opened up, and he described Mother 2 in 2009 as overwhelmingly large, and something that cannot be beaten quickly. You must be patient, he says, as you must be patient with most things in life. He understands why most people might play the game over and over again. He describes it as like the hidden taste of soup, something that keeps you coming back for more. He describes a few overtones of the game, including the presence of Tony and perhaps others too. If you live in a normal society, there are gay children. And I have a lot of gay friends, he begins. So I think it would be nice if I were to include such children. He also admits to his lack of research with the game, saying that experience and scooping out some kind of feeling that everyone can enjoy is the driving factor. And there's a lot of things about him and his sort of thoughts, which I think is my favorite thing about him as the Earthbound developer, is there's so much of just, like, the reason why these games exist is going, hey, I know a lot of, like, weird people, and there's a lot of people in the world, and I kind of want to capture every bit of that. And presenting that in a kind of explicitly queer character is very fun. And this is another character that in-game is very Ike-like, in the sense that they're just like, they're not gonna be like, I love you and I'm homosexual. Because that would be fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Instead, they're just like, I'm Jeff's best friend, and I was dreaming about him when he woke up. And that's the most important thing in the world to me. He loves his best friend, and that's completely normal. I'm gonna link a quick video clip.
I'm just trying so hard to play this
game. I'm trying to make progress.
I
mean, it's fun. This is... I have this to be background noise, because I'm gonna talk for a while.
I have to use this? Oh my god.
You have to find a guy who can fix things.
I think you were very ambitious trying to get me to play Earthbound for this stream.
Now, Qweave, like I said, I'm going to talk about this one for a bit. Because there's a lot of different things. Damn, he's kind of me for real. I was about to slam you for not putting my lesbians on list, but this one is good. No, this one's really good. Because this, again, is another one of the much, much earlier gay characters in a video game. And one of the ones that's, like, very... Again, word of God, yeah, this character is meant to be gay.
Which I do always appreciate.
Which I do appreciate. Because it's like, there's something in me, with me, as someone who was, like, born in 95. And going through my whole fucking life, not knowing that, like, gay characters exist outside of, like, a Jolly Roger. To be like, oh yeah, this character was gay, who's just, like, part of the video game for a while, is kind of important to me. I find that something, like, really special. So I'm gonna link a couple of, one clip. That's just, like, another fun little touch of that.
Oh, we have a clip now? Oh god, okay.
Yeah, here's a clip, This is gonna be
I'm
gonna continue talking. I'm going to talk a little... It's not. You're just... This is just background noise, Qweave. You're here to play instead of, playing music. So there's a point in the game where Tony calls you in Summers on your phone to say hello. And I think it's functionally just a save point. Here's a special interaction that happens if Jeff is dead in your party at the same time.
Oh my god. Okay, hold on.
They're not a Jolly Roger.
Hello, Jeff? Oh, happy day! I finally got a hold of you. Oh no, you're not Jeff! I've got to contact Jeff! Oh my god.
He has a special bit of dialogue before he does this. That's specifically just so fucking upset. He sounds so sad.
I'm sorry, Tony. Don't put my friend Jeff in any... Oh.
Dude! He's so cute! He's so fucking cute, dude! So, I think that's the cutest shit in the fucking world, man. There's a different one, which I won't show because it's spoilers, but there's a point where you save a bunch of people who are trapped underground. And Tony's in there and has another similar ending that also happens if Jeff happens to be dead in the party. He has a number of dialogues. They're just, if Jeff is out of your party, then he is just a broken little man.
He hates when Jeff is not doing well.
Oh, talk to the gate.
Let me talk to the gate.
I think you talk to the gate. I guess it's not. I don't remember how you get out of here.
I literally don't know what to do at all.
Okay, so walk around the outer perimeter. There's probably like a ledge somewhere. So the big thing that happens at some point... I'm sorry I don't have an Earthbound walkthrough to get you there. Isla's auto check /
I don't know what my L is bound
Go all the way to
to.
right. Do you have like what items do you have? Key the locker, protect. You need to talk to Maxwell in the one room, if you remember right. Yeah, probably true. Which is fine. You have to get the bad key machine from Maxwell. Yeah. Because I can talk a little bit about Mother 3. Which,
Maxwell.
I think he's the guy who has really small beady eyes. I'm going to talk about Mother 3 slightly.
Yeah, that's okay. I might not be able to show off Tony's existence in any meaningful capacity.
No, because Qweave, you're showing off his entire existence as a player in your party. This section of the game ends with you having to leave because you have to get on top of his shoulders to climb over the wall. And he says, like, you're the best. I'm going to be so worried about you on your little adventure. And he's just a cute little guy. And he's a wonderful boy. He's my favorite boy. This is the walk with Jeff that he dreamed about, probably. I think it's this guy.
Oh, he invented the machine that opens doors, especially when you have a slightly bad key. He did that really fast for me. Thanks, man.
I have to emphasize, this is one of the funniest games ever made.
I think that I have to fucking play this game on my own time at some point, because I do... Earthbound's a game that I do love all of the writing in, and I loved what I played of Mother 3. But Jeff, you're talking about Mother 3, you said.
So I'm talking about Mother 3. Anyone who doesn't know Mother 3, a major plot point is that there's a group of characters whose name I'm not going to say because it does have a slur in the back half of it.
Bad word.
Which is very unfortunate. Mother 3 is a group of genderless characters that I'm going to wonderfully refer to as the Queens.
Yeah, the Queens.
The cool Queens.
The Queens from Mother 3.
The Queens from Mother 3. Here's a link of just a picture of a few of them playing as Flint and Alec inside one of the Queen's seashell houses. They're a genderless group of characters with no specific depiction to who they are. Here they are.
Wow, there they are.
They are like a group of... They're just a collection of features. They love lipstick and looking pretty, and they all have beards, and they're all very cool. I like them a lot. They're all a billion years old.
They're also, from what I've played in this game, by and large, like a pretty likable little group of characters. Their
main thing in the game is that they're functionally gods, and they've been living here for like millions of years, and the lives of humans are very minor to them. But they think that they're really cute, and they hang out. These characters are wonderful. They're a bunch of old bags.
They are a bunch of old bags.
Here's a quote. Before I first encountered the queens, I was told they're neither man nor a woman, nor are they human.
Oh, hold on,
that
everybody.
Really... Oh! No!
Oh no!
Oh!
Aww. That's our little bit of seeing Tony.
That's your little Tony adventure. So I'm gonna read one more interview referring the wonderful queens from.
Oh hey, it's Boot.
Yeah, that's me. So before I encountered them, the dialogue says they're neither man or woman nor are they human. That really left it up to my imagination as to what frightening creature I was about to come across. He laughs it off. The interviewer says, they really are some fantastic people. Here's their quote referring them. It's because the world in this game is so macho. The good guys in this game are strong and they fight, and the same goes for the bad guys. So in other words, it sets up that might equals right, power is beautiful, and amid all that, there are these non-man yet non-women people who have already gone so far as to accept their fate of death. If these characters really existed, I would want the people who play Mother 3 not to act hostile towards them. I want them to have fun together in a world they both share. Interviewer says, I can really feel how much you respect the essence of the queens. Atoiv says, I really do respect them. I have queen friends of my own.
Oh my god!
I knew it! I knew it, the interviewer says and laughs. Atoiv says, it's to the point that I've told now and then how well I understand the queen heart, he laughs again. And how some players were especially moved to tears in the way that their sense of beauty differs from the sense of beauty most people adhere to. Interviewer says, awesome. Only someone like you with such a wide variety of acquaintances could have created such a world. Atoiv says, I'm not one of those people, but I really like them a lot. Enough that I'd want to be one myself, laughs. Ha 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 ha. Interviewer laughs. Ha 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 ha. And I think that's another just wonderful, wonderful little quote that establishes, like, the mindset behind creating these characters, because the whole point of Mother 3 is just, like... And the Mother games in a whole are the shit that you see in the world. It's about compressing the world into this little RPG, and all the strange people that you see, and all the weird things you come across, and...
I would call the Mother games, like, really exceedingly human for how goofy that they are.
No, exactly!
Because, like, I guess, in a way, being a human is a pretty goofy experience in, like, the grand scheme of things.
People aren't normal. Every single person is kind of stupid. Every single person has a quirk, and I think that's an inherently sort of, like, fun feature of being queer, is embellishing in that. So having that sort of, like, exist in a video game and be presented with that sort of perspective on it in the first place, I think that's wonderful. I think that's one of my favorite things.
I want to move on.
I think we're good. I think we're good here.
All right.
The last character. So functionally, what I'm treating as is characters from the late 2000s to early 2010s are going to be in the back half of the stream. We'll come back to them. This is one of our last pre-2010 characters, and maybe our last Nintendo character. Everyone probably knows who this is, I think.
Alright.
You probably know who they are. You definitely know who they are. Run it.
Wow,
Run
it's
it.
Vivian from Paper Mario.
It's Vivian Paper Mario.
Door. Everybody's beloved, well-known character.
Everyone's favorite character, who I'm so happy got a video game release right now.
Yes. That made some things more explicit.
It made some things more explicit. So anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to open up the regional differences with this game. I have a big list. You can find a lot of these on the cutting room floor. It's all just translations. And it talks about why this character is perceived as trans. Let's just start with the translations of it. Here's the tattle, the party member description. When you check your party in the English version of the game, you receive Vivian, one of the Shadow Sirens. She suffers from a bit of an inferiority complex. When you check her party member in Japanese, a former member of the Shadow Trio. He may look like a girl, but he's a boy. And that's pretty much very similar to Birdo's deal, which is so interesting. That seems to just be like a running joke that they're like, this will be really awesome. In the English dialogue, when you first see her, her and the Shadow Sirens are all doing this big little talk. You know what, let me just grab a video of that so I can have some background.
Yeah, we can have just a little background thing on, because right now we're not looking at anything.
So, obviously, we all know how this character interacts. We've always played Paper Mario. The whole thing is, she refers to them all shadowedly. They say, "We are the three shadow beauties." And then Beldam says, "What the fuck did you say, you idiot? It's Shadow Sirens. There's not three beauties here. There's two. And then you are extremely ugly." And then Vivian gets all sad about being an accident. She gets called Lovelies. And they all yell at her. Which you can skim ahead until we get to that. It's pretty obvious when you get there. It's probably like just a couple seconds.
I mean, you don't have to linger on this, really. I think nobody here, I think, is probably going to be sitting around waiting to finally see Paper Mario at the Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, exactly. But I am going to talk about it, because people don't know how explicitly transphobic that Beldam was in the original game. And it is, instead of saying the Shadow Beauties, they say, "We are the three Shadow Sisters." To which she says, "Vivian, what did you say? We're the Shadow Trio. Where are these three sisters? Aren't you a man?" All caps.
Oh my god.
And then Vivian says, "I'm sorry, sis, that was an accident." To which she says, "That was no accident. After this, you're in for a punishing." Which people don't know that's how explicit that it is.
Oh, gee whiz. I hate being punished.
Yeah, so that's the translation of it. When people talk about Bedlam being transphobic in the original game, it's really, really a lot. In the new game, in the Thousand Year Door remake, it doesn't go that far. People are like, hell yeah, Beldam's transphobic again. She's not. They seemingly go out of their way a lot to make that character not complaining about her being a woman. But nonetheless, that's what happens. There's also a tattle. There's a quest in the game, the side quest that you know, not the tattle. What are they called? The Troubles. There's a trouble in that game.
Troubles.
Where there's a Goomba who says, "Get me a girlfriend," and has different dialogue for every female partner. When you bring Vivian out and talk to him, he says, "Whoa, you sure are cute, but you're a guy, right? Look, I don't want guys. This won't work at all. Introduce me to a cute Goomba gal. I'm begging you." And then she says, "I wouldn't want a guy like you either."
There are some transphobes and fucking robots.
There are a lot of people who are transphobic in Paper Mario. In the remake, by the way, they changed that line to be, "He hates that she's goth."
Yeah, I saw that. They did tone down some of it to a degree, but also at the same time, a lot of people say that they've toned up Vivian being a very transparently trans character.
Now, out of curiosity, I'm going to read 3 more things. And this is the Goombella Tattles, right? This is what happens when... This is the party member descriptions, I'm sorry. The English one says, "One of the Shadow Sirens suffers from inferiority complex." The Japanese one says, "A former member of the Shadow Trio. He may look like a girl, but he's a boy."
God damn
Let me read the other ones. French. "Vivian was once a member of the Dark Trio. He pretends to be a girl, but is actually a boy." Spanish. "This former member of the Shadow Trio looks like a girl, but is actually a boy." German. "An ex-member of the Shadow Trio." Italian translation, which is the most interesting thing in the world. "An ex-member of the Shadow Trio. She used to be a man, but now she's a woman and proud of it."
Let's go Italy, I guess? I don't know.
Which is... Yeah!
I guess?
The Italian translation is the only one that says, "Yeah, Vivian's a woman." And when Goombella tattles her, Goombella says, "That's Vivian. She's the youngest sister of the Shadow Trio," in the Italian one. In all the other ones, she says, "It's Vivian, the youngest sister, ... I mean brother."
I believe in the remake they changed how that stuff is completely, right?
In the remake, Goombella's like, "Jesus Christ, she's so fucking cute, I'm embarrassed. Yes. I wish I could be that cute. Oh my god."
It is.
You got automated for Italia.
It is worth noting, Goombella is a ambiguously bisexual woman in the remake of the Thousand Year Door. Honorable mention to Goombella, everybody.
So we all know Vivian.
Everyone
and the reason why Vivian's here is, first of all, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew what the actual original dialogue for this game was and why this is a whole fucking thing. And it's that. And it's crazy that it's that. And when you look at the new video game, and they very explicitly state, like, "Yeah, no, this is a trans character." It's sort of like you look at Berta, right? Who is such a similar way of running that character. It's almost word for word the same description, from the start, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is a character that thinks they're a woman.
It's so interesting that the Japanese description is word for word Birdo's description, except like straight up 20 years later.
And to have that switch to present day, where Birdo is now like, yeah, this is just a girl, to Vivian having that same sort of progress and being like, this character is canonically trans, explicitly trans in the text, which is more so than any of these. Of anyone in this. Even the fucking Jolly Roger, the gay stereotype character, isn't an explicitly gay character.
Yeah, every single one of these tries really hard to dodge around stuff, even when it's a weird stereotype.
And you look at Vivian, and suddenly it's a character who has, for the longest time, been just beloved by queer communities. And she's wonderful, and she's presented in a way that is really inarguably positive. Even the ending of the prior game, by the way, of the English translation of Thousand Year Door, she goes back to live with her sisters, and she says, I have to go back because after all, family is family.
Boo!
And some people were very upset about that. And in the new game, they explicitly reword it as, my family is important to me, and I think I'm ready to give them another chance. I think I believe in them becoming better. And that's crazy that they were willing to change like that as well. Because it means that they're looking at the context of this character as well. Which is... It was like mind-blowing to see that happens. Because I've never seen that happen. So that's why I think Vivian's important. Vivian is probably the most earned spot in this list so far. This is the first section that happened. This next section that's coming up is a different category. So we're mildly chronological in this one, except for Tony, who I had later because we wanted to talk about a lot. This section is about fighting games. Reveal one, Qweave!
In our fighting game section, the first character that you will get to meet, you know them, you love them, it's Poison!
It's Poison! Ladies and gentlemen, it's Poison from Final Fight. So I've done have a video for this one, but I do have a Poison combo video, which I have as background noise listed in my notes so that I can just run that in the background.
Okay, I guess link the Poison combo video.
Anyone who doesn't know who Poison is, Poison is a boss character in Final Fight from 1989, and the original idea of them is that they're very explicitly a trans woman. In the original game, the common knowledge that they have, and this is obviously, like, if not warning for transphobia, homophobia, example for this whole stream, because we're just talking about it.
Yeah.
The idea that people say about this character is going, okay, we made a woman, and she's just one of the enemies and the bosses of the Mad Gear gang. But we're worried about Americans wanting to have a video game where you hit a woman in it. So we're going to say that the character's trans so that you can hit her instead.
Yep.
And that's the colloquial thing that people say. That's actually not true.
Is it not?
Which is really interesting.
That is what I thought it was.
That's the common knowledge. Yeah, that's the quoted one.
I always assumed that Poison was there to make it acceptable to hit a woman by, like, 80s standards. And that's a really common story.
Yeah, so the reasons where that came from is there was a different Capcom game that was lawsuit fears. And it was the idea of, okay, we might get sued if we do something like this because of the US. And this was, like, tied with Capcom. They were really concerned about having violence with women. There was a different character in a game who got censored for that same reason. But even if that's the reason why Poison is trans, it wasn't a censorship decision. She was a character that was intended to be trans from the very fucking beginning. Her original concept art for the video game, which showed up in one of the Capcom fighting collections, does have the Japanese equivalent of the word she-male labeled under it. Meaning that there was an intent behind the character from literally her first moment existing. Like I said, I'm very explicitly using that terminology because it was the term
that
being used derogatorily.
Verbatim, what was written on her character
I'm saying that with quotation marks. Now, over time, the thing with Poison is that as much as the fan base of Street Fighter and Final Fight, and over time, Mimi, yes, that's the right term. Over time, the fan base loves Poison. Poison has been widely acknowledged, pretty much the same as Birdo, actually.
People really like Poison now. I know that.
People love Poison. People pretty outwardly accept Poison as trans. But there's this really interesting thing that happened, whereas Birdo had this sort of... Honestly, Poison's a really good Birdo allegory, which is why I'm kind of starting with her. Because... Sorry, the interview that I'm loading is on... what's it called? Internet Archive.
Oh, this is a...
So it's going to take a second.
This is forbidden information.
This is forbidden knowledge from talk about Street Fighter X Tekken. Which, by the way, does make, I think, Ryu, Chun-Li, Heihachi, and Kuma transphobic?
Oh, awesome. That's really cool.
There's a lot of dialogue in Street Fighter versus Capcom versus Street Fighter versus Tekken that's like, that almost felt like I was fighting a man. And Kuma being like, sniff, sniff. Does this smell like a woman?
Why did they make...
This doesn't smell like a woman, in parentheses.
Why did they make the fucking bear a transphobe?
I don't know why they...
It's a fucking bear!
That's one of Kuma's win quotes.
You can make Heihachi transphobic and it makes sense. I wouldn't be shocked if that fucking guy was, but everyone else is kind of crazy.
So, here's a direct response from the Capcom rep regarding those specific win quotes. They said, hey, I'm talking to members of the trans community. This is from a 2011 interview. And some problems have come from regards to statements from Ryu and Chun-Li made about Poison not being a real woman. And the Capcom rep jumps in and says, can I jump in real quick? These win quotes came from an earlier point in the game's development, and while we haven't publicized it too much, we're working very closely with GLAD, and we're very sensitive as far as not wanting to alienate anybody, as Ono said. We're trying to be very careful in this regard. It's been an educational process. We want people to know that we're now working with GLAD to make sure that nothing offensive or might be offensive is going to show up. Which is very interesting, because you look at this compared to someone like Birdo, where they just sort of sweep it under the rug. Poison is a character that they start really struggling to decide what to do with. They get really, really uncomfortable, and it shows that they're very uncomfortable.
They're like, we have this character, and they have been treated poorly for their entire existence as a character, and suddenly people don't like it?
So here's an Ono quote. In response to being asked, what's it called? If Capcom just asking a statement on, do you think there's any responsibility for Capcom to make a statement on what Poison's fucking gender is? And the response is, I absolutely get what you're saying. I understand there's not a lot of transgender or transsexual characters in games at all, and certainly I see the need for me to have that kind of character to look up to in a game. At the same time, there's a lot of Poison fans that see her as a standard woman and want her to be a woman. So by our stance of not giving a canonical answer, I think at least that's my intent, that we're trying to please both these groups.
Oh, pussy answer.
We're trying to have our cake and eat it too, basically.
Yep.
And the running thing with Poison has been, we really want to avoid talking about it.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like. That sounds like, hey, don't look at us, I don't know. It's a mystery.
And it's interesting that they're talking to gay rights organizations. They're trying to figure something out with it. But at this point in 2011, it was not happening. They don't know what to do about it. And I'm going to grab one more quote from transgirlmedia.wordpress.com, which does have an article talking about it. I'm going to grab this quote in 1 second. In 2014, before her appearance in Street Fighter IV, you asked, doesn't she canonically have bottom surgery? Ono stated, let's set the record straight. In North America, Poison is officially post-op transgender, but in Japan, she tucks her business away to look female.
Okay.
And later recanted that, saying she is post-op in all regions.
What
and
the
later
fuck is
recanted that by saying, Capcom's original stance is official stance is that it's up to the player.
Oh
Poison
my god!
is completely genderless and up to the player.
So they gave her a bizarre, if she's post-op or not thing, and then said, okay, she has had bottom surgery everywhere, and then went back to their, like, 2010 stance for no reason. They're like, never mind, no, scratch that, reverse it.
Which is the most interesting thing, is because, again, the character has been going further and further. There were points where it was like...
This is unrelated to Poison entirely, this is just... Whatever.
This is just cute.
I guess this is playing now because there were only 2 Poison combo videos.
There hits this point where, in Street Fighter V, the most that we get is that it lists Poison gender as unknown. And she is the only character in the entire game that is listed as unknown that isn't, like, a strange beast. So, at this point in time, I think what's interesting to bring about Poison on is, despite being a character that's beloved by the trans community, especially fighting game community, everybody likes Poison. There's this really interesting situation where how people react to that happening. And I think comparing Birdo and Vivian and Poison is a really sort of neat situation where Nintendo's reaction to being like, hey, we made this character as a kind of transphobic joke, but people like them, we just won't talk about it, we'll dance around it, she's a woman, that's it, we'll leave it. And then Vivian being like, she's a woman, now she's trans, we can't ignore it, she's trans. Poison is a character that, I guess from some different perspective between Capcom and Nintendo and Ono and whatever he wants, who I don't know if Ono's on Street Fighter anymore. Poison's role has been completely distinct. They're terrified of what to do, and I assume it's the level of horny fans. I think that the amount of... Because Poison was a moneymaker, in case anyone doesn't know. Poison was the Capcom character that got statues, that got prints.
I didn't know that.
When there's like an ass statue, Poison shows up a lot. Ono is no longer on Street Fighter. It's why 5 ended up being good in the end.
I was gonna say, it's kind of funny that one of the most, I would say, explicitly sexy, like big boob, small waist, wide hip characters in the Street Fighter universe is Poison. She shits on kind of all of the rest of the woman fighters in that game series as like, yeah, she's hilariously sexy, actually.
She's the sexy character. But, I think because of that, there's like a really big fear of like, if we say that she's a trans woman, people will get scared. Which Birdo doesn't have to deal with. Birdo doesn't have to deal with, we're going to crush our pictures of sexy Birdo market if we say that she's a woman.
Only weirdos are like, Birdo super sexy. Weirdo slash Cos, mind you, but still.
Have they confirmed her as trans now? I think that if Poison is in Street Fighter 6...
Probably.
It would be very, very likely that they just say she's a woman.
Do you think that they're going to go the Nintendo route and just say, she's a woman, and call it a day, eventually?
I could actually see it, because we're going to get to it. This fighting game arc is its own little section.
Want to move on to our next character?
Let's move on to the next one. This one's a surprising one for a lot of people, I think.
This is our first row. This is our last character on the top row.
I have another combo video to play, don't you worry.
Oh, awesome. This next character in Super Smash Bros. Melee is... Leo.
It's Leo. It's Leo from Tekken.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Tekken.
Leo Tekken is their gender-ambiguous character. They were a character that was, according to a lot of sources, that no longer exist, and I wasn't able to find, quoted as trying to be... We want people who can associate with men or women to be able to play an androgynous-looking character.
Okay.
Leo's gender journey is very similar to Poison's in a weird way. It's less explicitly, It's less transphobic because this character came out in 2007 and not 1989.
That is true. There's less history to get all bungled up there.
And the world was a bit better about it.
I also feel like inherently, if you're making a character who can be read as a trans woman, it is one of the hardest things for game developers to not be shitty about for a long time. And someone like Leo is inherently different.
So, at a behind closed doors event, what's it called, in Germany, pre-release for Tekken 6, they did announce by mistake somehow Leo is a woman, which is not stated in anywhere of the games. I think they have a female voice actor right now. The character is, I think, referred to as male very often, referred to as genderless very often. And behind closed doors was accidentally referred to as a woman by mistake. In a pre-release for the game that they premiered in. At a press event for Tekken 6, Leo in Germany was referred to as on like a big screen saying, yeah, Leo's a woman, in an interview. Harada replies, oh, I wonder where you heard that from. Well, Leo's gender was actually decided from the beginning. Both his gender and his real name. The notation Leo is just the same as Bob's, as to make it easier to call him. And that's because Leo's full name is Leonard or something like that. The question comes up, didn't you intentionally make them genderless? He says, well, I had the aim that it would be more exciting. But at an event in Germany the other day, I accidentally spoke, and at the time I said I would just talk about this here, but the next day it spread way too quickly. So what seemed to have happened is that he did indeed say that Leo's a woman by mistake while trying to make a genderless character, which I think is one of the funniest things to possibly happen. To go to a press event right before you're doing an interview where you talk about every single character in Tekken, literally the following like day or two, and you have to say, yeah, this character is not actually a woman. That's... They are genderless. I fucked up. I said the wrong thing. I misgendered my OC.
I think that's very funny.
And what's interesting for this is, here's a quote. Who did people think was more likely for them to be more likely a man or woman? At the venue in Germany, it was about half and half. Thanks to this, we have both male and female fans. And in the early days of Tekken 6, the usage rate was by far the highest. Not only that, but Leo is also a character who is rare in the Tekken series, and also often featured in illustrations by customers other than competitive gamers and in doujinshi.
Is this just saying people draw a lot of porn of this
People
character?
draw a lot of porn of Leo. Quote, as I mentioned earlier, this is really a really valuable thing for Tekken, and it's rare.
It's valuable and rare! That's so funny. To be fair, Tekken doesn't have a lot of very sexy characters in my mind.
No, because then they get responded. Certainly, I feel as though there are far fewer illustrations of Tekken than in other fighting games.
Oh.
And he says, it's true, even if you look at magazine, there are a tremendous amount of strategy articles on Tekken, but not a single illustration of Tekken on the illustration corner. However, there is a character illustration of the title that does not have a single page of strategy articles in the illustration corner. What the hell is going on? So in that sense, Leo is a valuable character. Which is the funniest shit in the fucking world, dude.
Leo is their fan service genderless character.
What's really interesting about this is you compare it to Poison, who I was saying I think has the same problem, where Poison is too sexy for them to want to alienate their fans who are like, oh yeah, no, she's a cis woman. They don't want to be like, oh no, you can still jerk off to her. She's anything.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Leo is the genderless character who's saying, no, they don't have a gender. They don't have a gender. You can jerk off to them. Don't worry.
I think that's really
It's whatever
funny.
you want.
It's a fun inversion of whatever's going on with Poison.
Leo does have a swimsuit like every other character in Tekken, but Leo is the only character with a bikini swimsuit and a normal traditional swimsuit.
Oh
Very similar to the one that you have, actually. Quote, with this customization, Leo's cross-dressing has yet to be seen. Harada responds, not at the moment. Please keep it that the gender is unknown.
I really like that. Leo's not cross-dressing, they're just wearing
Leo's
clothes.
not cross-dressing, Leo's genderless. Leo's a genderless character. This is an interview from 2011. And Harada's a Twitter replier. We all know that Harada's a Twitter replier. This has come up a couple of times. So the question came up. I misunderstood from someone tweeting at him, hey, didn't you announce Leo as a female character? I heard you say that at that thing in Japan. And his immediate response was, Leo is gender unknown, flat. As a secret story about production, I said at the beginning of the project, it was they were a woman. The translation says it, so that's what I'm reading off of. In addition, I mentioned the magazine. The title of Tekken was Kamui at the beginning of development. That doesn't mean that everyone is going to have to say Tekken is Kamui, which makes sense how that happened. Of him saying, at the beginning of Tekken, we wanted Leo to be a woman. Because that's what he said, and it was taken as Leo was a female character. Which, after... I think this tweet came up in 2014, so 3 years after the fact, The Secret come out. Leo was developed from the very beginning as a woman, and changed midway through development, and are firmly gender unknown. When asked, I have another question. Is Leo non-binary? If yes, they're the first non-binary character in Tekken, which makes your game 20% cooler. Heart emoji.
Oh my fucking god. Rainbow Dash!
Response, I'm no longer aware of such things, and Leo would not want to be categorized.
Oh, Leo's
in any case, it
whoa.
doesn't matter, right? Leo is Leo, your game character.
Is that awesome? Is it cool that Leo,
I think it's curious.
I think that no longer aware sounds like just, like, auto-translation weirdness.
Yeah, it feels like auto-translation weirdness. Harada's first name is. But I think it's a very interesting comparison to have Poison and Leo in the same sort of category, where it's like, I think these are two characters they're sort of marketing off being the horny guy character, but they're taking very different ways about it.
It's so funny because the lack of any ability to label Poison strikes me as weird and annoying and kind of cowardly on the part of Capcom.
Yeah, but and the difference is...
Yeah.
The difference is Poison isn't a genderless character.
Yeah.
Leo is like, oh, they're either a boy or a girl, they're whatever, they're a genderless character.
Poison has a massive fucking rack and is explicitly female presenting in, like, every single way. So the fact that they refuse to label her as, like, literally anything and keep being wishy-washy and weird about it is, like, mad annoying. While Leo being a character who they literally do not want to apply a label to, not even non-binary, is like, okay, fine, that's cool, I guess. They're just doing their thing.
Who are like that.
Yeah,
which is really funny because
I know people who are like do not really align with any particular label and are just max ambiguous, and that's it.
Who are like, don't call me non-binary, but I'm not like, I don't align with any like gender.
I'm
which
kind
is
of just whatever.
I don't think that's what Katsuhiro Harada was going for when he made that tweet, but to some degree, there's like a level of appreciation for it. Qweave, I'm sending you another combo video, which I chose because I think it's the lowest read combo video I've ever fucking seen. Reveal the next character. Who do we got?
Did everyone guess their character? Nobody knows.
You're all making jokes. They're all making jokes.
It's Bridget.
It's fucking Bridget, dude. Who the fuck else could it be?
It is Bridget.
Literally, who the fuck else could it be? In this, maybe, I think, the most popular queer character of the past however many years. Maybe of all time?
17 years ago?
Yeah, this is a 17-year-old Bridget combo video.
Awesome, from one of the
just wait till you see the gameplay.
From Guilty Gear X2! Check out these Bridget combos, baby! Wow!
So anyone who doesn't know Bridget's whole deal, I believe the lore is that there was some fucking curse. For some reason, the Bridget lore is one thing that I did not include in my fucking list.
You have a whole fucking section for a character. You don't look up.
I only included the things that are real. I did not include it in my list. I completely forgot while going through my research. All I know is that her whole fucking thing was that, what's it called? Let me read it from the Guilty Gear fandom wiki. There's a superstition about male twins bringing misfortune, and the townspeople were so embedded in it that male twins would be put to death or given to adoption. Bridget's parents were unwilling to lose ones. They chose to raise her as a daughter instead of a son and hid her sex from the public eye. Over time, they eventually made a thing of, like, her whole role is like, no, I'm actually a boy. Stop calling me a girl, even though everyone knows I am a girl. And that was her role for a really long time in Guilty Gear. She was, if anyone was online in the fucking early 2000s, mid 2000s, 17 years ago, as the video says, Bridget was like the fucking classic, the femboy character.
I was gonna say, I remember distinctly seeing Bridget in certain online circles that I inhabited vaguely, namely Gaia Online chat rooms in like 2009.
Everywhere.
Bridget was
Everywhere.
like one of the quintessential femboys at that point in time, which is very, very funny.
Bridget will make you gay, in quotation marks. Everyone's gay for Bridget. Yes.
Yes.
That was this Bridget, which is crazy. Was maybe the most well-known Guilty Gear character by a long shot. It's mostly because people thought she was sexy. It even got into the Impossible Quiz, which is
and that's a
insane.
high. That's a crazy benchmark to clear. When you're in the Impossible Quiz, you know you made it. But
so, in case you didn't know, Guilty Gear Strive came out. However many years later, Bridget does a big comeback, and Bridget is made not only an explicitly trans character who functionally shouts, "I'm a woman," and proud of it. And it's made like so entirely earnestly outward that it's kind of mind-blowing and has changed that character entirely. The amount of merchandise that you see for Bridget, you can buy Bridget clothes, you can buy her bear, you can buy 8 different Bridget statues. I think more than that. I think we're on like the 20s now.
We're making so many Bridgets.
She has a theme song about coming to terms with her transition, which is crazy.
We can play your theme if we want.
You can, yeah, feel free to play Town Inside Me.
We can have that be our background noise. Hold on.
It's the loudest, proudest fucking character shit that I've ever seen in a video game. So much that like blew my fucking mind when again this happened.
Oh, hold on, let me Alright, I'm playing this gently in the background.
And when this came out, the question was like, oh, is this like a real thing or is this all English translations? And
people were
the developers of Guilty Gear came out and did an interview where they explicitly say the direction itself has been set since Bridget first appeared in the game and has never changed. I never changed the story on a spontaneous idea. It's not about Bridget, it's all about the character's messages and dramas, and it's been decided for a long time. Nowadays, the awareness of transgender people has spread considerably, and it seems that the times have caught up with Bridget's story, which I've been thinking about for a long time. Which is such an interesting quote.
That is really, really interesting compared to, I think, the usual thing you see with characters who eventually are like...
Yeah.
Are
like, whenever I talk about
being
Bridget.
Trans, I feel like usually it feels like it's something that was either we made a joke into not a joke, or whatever.
Yeah, and it's, you look at something like Poison and Leo, for example, which we just spent talking about for a long time, and it's the idea of, could you imagine if Capcom said, yeah, we're thinking about it right now, and I think Poison's story, you know, the times have built with it. The trans characters are more in the view of the public. We know this is a thing that exists, and it fits for the character. It's just like, instead we get, no, we don't fucking know! We don't know!
We don't know.
So
please
scared.
jack off to this character! Please jack off to this character! Please keep buying merch, please!
And their original thing that they said was, we wanted people to play the game and accept the story, and everyone may have their own interpretation, but they wanted us to accept our message, was the quote. And then they said, increasingly, pinpoint topics put precedence, and people who didn't buy the game and didn't play it got increasingly perceived a different direction from the message we were trying to send. And it said very, very explicitly, no, she's a trans character. That was the design and purpose of it. And they were scared of having that revelation out because they said it would be a spoiler, and I was concerned how it would be putting the ending on the official website. Which is so interesting.
Very Sakura.
That this needs to be said. That you need to come out and say, hey, the only reason we're not saying this is because it's a spoiler for the ending of this character.
This character's arcade mode. We don't want to ruin that. I think it's insane that with this much explicit, oh hey, the character is trans, people still argued about it insanely online and said, no, it's bad localization that made this happen.
It's ridiculous, because they had to come out and explicitly say it.
Let's go Bridget.
Here's a quote. Ishiwatari said that when he first came up with the idea for Bridget, it was because he knew someone who was into yo-yo tricks and modeled Bridget after that person. He decided to make the character a cross-dresser theme because he wanted to do something offbeat. at the time, we weren't, at the time Bridget first appeared, we weren't sensitive about compliance. With the game before this one, we were fairly conscious. So this is in response to the same thing that people said about Poison, where they're saying a rumor of they made her trans to say you can beat her up. And he says, we weren't sensitive about compliance. With the game before this one, we were fairly conscious about marketing overseas audience, and we're strongly conscious about global standards. At the beginning, we focused attention to what specifically had the most visual and emotional impact. He brought up Baiken, who has one eye and one arm, and he was very firm on including her. But the ESRB and general censorship was really pushing the idea of they have to take her out because she's missing a limb, and that's too violent.
I did it. That's insane.
And he says, quote, with the subsection of the character roster, I wanted to actively try to represent people who occupy a quote-unquote minority position with society. I wanted to portray these characters doing heroic things.
Cool.
No, it's like so explicitly just fucking out there.
That's really interesting. I feel like if you look at everyone on our weird little list so far, Bridget feels like one of the most openly actually cool pieces of real, like, representation at this point. Out of everybody.
There is a quote of, this is the reason alongside conscious updating the character and presentation, she used to have a male symbol, a big gold male sign as a pin on her habit. And that slowly changed into a transgender mark with the arrow and the cross and one more symbol hanging off of it. And, quote, he was so particular including that mark that when one of the modelers overlooked the design, he called it out. There's elsewhere a general talk about her design, which goes into a lot of explicit things. I'm going to try and see if I can find that, because I know that one exists. Let me grab it. And I want to make sure it's real, because it might not be on my notes.
Yeah, I did not know that Mr. Guilty Gear was actually awesome. I feel like this does make me want to read more interviews with actual game developers, because it feels like there's so much stuff you just would not think about if you exclusively play a game, and that's it.
Yeah. I think people don't know the degree to which it was considered, like, we want this character to be good trans rep. Which is so weird that there's, like, any sort of video game where that's explicitly, we want to do this. We want this character to be gay, and we have an intent behind it. Which is something that has any character had up to this point, unless maybe Vivian was like, we want to correct this into a specific way.
I mean, Vivian, but the only Vivian that
it's like Vivian.
I think genuinely counts as good rep only came into existence, like, this fucking month. Because for most of Vivian's existence, she was still, if you read any of the descriptions about her, a weird kind of cruel character in some ways.
Yeah.
Tony is awesome, but he's also very, like, you only really know if you are a massive in-between-the-lines reader or if you read interviews.
Yeah, and to have that just, like, outward with a character that I think is so fucking popular.
Bridget's probably, like, at least, the gotta be, like, top 5 in that franchise right now, right?
I think Bridget is easily the most popular charter in Guilty Gear. I think that's not even a question.
I like being conservative because
you like being conservative.
Yeah, people also really like everyone's playing Happy Chaos. Everyone loves that.
Could be RoboKai. I think RoboKai might be on top. You know.
It's funny because you say that, but RoboKai is immensely popular. It's like a joke, but I love RoboKai.
I love RoboKai. I want RoboKai to come back in Guilty Gear Strive, and he has
RoboKai is
he has the previous game's Kai design, where he has the ponytail and the big coat.
Way better design, by the way. Anyways, that's Bridget. We all know we love Bridget.
I think Bridget might be the singular most important trans rep video game character of the past 20 years.
I think, yeah, I know so many people. I know so many trans people who were genuinely, like, stoked when Bridget's entire deal was unveiled and, like, in some ways saw themselves in the character. And I wouldn't be shocked if there are some people who came to a revelation regarding themselves because of the character.
No, absolutely.
Bridget. Like, it's rare that you see a video game character that you feel actually could make a difference in anybody's life at all.
And just in the sense of, this is a video game that sold better and had better word of mouth and reached a wider audience by including a trans character in it and being proud of it.
Yeah. It did
Which
not,
is unfucking heard of, man.
It's so interesting because I feel like Bridget is also a character that highlights how insanely irrelevant that all of these weird internet goblins are. Because, shockingly enough, Bridget's inclusion and very explicitly being trans did not suddenly make Guilty Gear go broke because it went broke. Did not affect
it's
it in the
reverse
slightest.
Bloodlight.
Yeah,
reverse Bloodlight.
And yeah, you have like weird localization freaks who are like, no, it's wrong. But those people are like just genuine idiots, and there are not actually that many of them. So good for Bridget.
Good for Bridget. Thank you, Bridget. Now, the next one, we're done with the fighting game section. We're now lumping from probably one of the biggest queer characters in modern time to the older ones.
Want to get
the
freaky,
Mr. Game & Watches. We're into the... We're not getting freaky all the way, but this one's a big left field. This one might surprise you. Ladies and gentlemen, some of our earliest gay characters. Run it, Qweave.
Our next character in Gayle is the Killer!
It's the Killer.
It's the Killer!
So, you might be surprised by this. This is obviously a joke image.
This is a joke image and a funny name.
This is a joke image. This is a joke image and a funny name for something else.
This is for a real thing, okay?
In the earliest aspects of gay characters in video games, which you can think of as... Functionally, this is 1980s. If you were a queer character in a video game, your exclusive existence was to be a secret serial killer or to be killed by somebody.
Yes.
And the Killer is the lump category for every single gay villain that showed up in every single text adventure over the course of the 1980s.
I don't know if we have anything to show off related to this because we're talking text adventures.
I do have a couple.
Oh, cool.
I don't have any. I don't have. I'll have one video at the very end that we'll bring up. So first, I'm going to talk about is Moon Mist. Moon Mist was the first ever. You can look up Moon Mist if you want. It's a text adventure. Moon Mist is the first ever lesbian in a video game. The first thing that they have is a character who is extremely jealous at the fact that her former lover, who left her for a man, was murdered, and she blames the man for it. And she is so angry about it that she's trying to kill him. And she is the killer. She's dressing up like a ghost and trying to kill him. And she's terrorizing the house. You can find
she's a lesbian, baby.
You can find a tear-stained page in her diary in which she describes her anguish and death at her late lover and desire for revenge. This is the first lesbian in a video game. Like, literally. No disconnect. Very explicitly the first lesbian in a published video game.
She is evil.
And she is an evil person who's trying to murder you in response to killing her late lover. She is arrested at the end of the game for pulling a blow dart gun on the player character, and they do get her. Another example is classic game Police Quest Open Season. A lot of detective games wanted to garner interest by doing seedy locations in the same way that one might go, oh, I want to go to like a club or a big scene, etc., something like interesting and seedy. And because gay culture was inherently treated like that, because of that, it shows up a lot. Your murdered partner is revealed to be a secret cross-dresser. Can we go back and digest the game Police Quest Open Season?
I'm sorry,
Can you look at the gameplay?
I'm actively playing the gameplay.
No, I mean, I was telling everyone else, can you look at what this fucking game looks like? It's ridiculous.
This is an awesome video game. I'd love to play this thing. I bet it handles these matters in a very
I bet this game is really good. Anyways, the final villain is a gay cross-dresser serial killer that you find out, who you do burn to death with hairspray.
Awesome. Dude, the gay cross-dressing villain is such a timeless piece of, like, that sucks. And you saw that everywhere. That was almost the standard for, like, a gay man in any kind of media for a weirdly long time.
There was a long period where it was the two things that you get, you blame Silence of the Lambs and Psycho, actually true.
Yeah.
Actually true. There was a point where to put a gay character in a video game was like, we need something like weird to make the player feel uncomfortable. Let's put a gay man in it. Isn't this fucked up that there's a gay character here? So the killer is filling that niche alongside the eponymous killed.
Police Quest 4.
I bet Police Quest is gonna murder this guy.
Police Quest, you gotta get out of there! Oh no, Police Quest! What are you gonna do in this room?
Skip ahead. Get out of here. Change this off the screen. It's just in time because I have a new video. Oh, by the way, every single review for this game mentions it having a gay bar or a transgender strip club, but no, there is a normal strip club that has a gay character outside of it, by coincidence. Awesome. In case you're wondering what people think of these videos.
I was gonna say, Matt Guy in chat is right. I feel like this perception of gay people is super, like, pulp novel bullshit fucking era type writing.
Here's a really interesting one. There's two. There's two videos. There's the killer and the killed. I'm going to reveal this one. This is Gabriel Knight 2, which is a sort of detective ghost hunter thing. You can just leave this character on.
This shit looked like fucking Nancy Drew, dog.
You Nancy Drew fans might remember something like this.
Oh, man.
This main villain, I don't recall his name, and I could grab it any second. It's Von Glower. God, that's sure a name for a character that's heavily queer-coded, isn't it?
Do we want audio on this?
Yes, I would love audio on it, because it's mostly just his voice and his conversation. Gabriel, he is a werewolf.
What a pleasure to see you so.
And he runs a secret men's club for men who are ostracized from society and need somewhere to bond with each other, and thus all of them become werewolves.
Okay.
So this is a game that very explicitly attempts to tie its...
It's fine, Baron.
Hold on, I have to grab one more thing.
All right.
Sorry, it's another web archive link.
I like to have things settled.
This is a video game that tries its best to tie, like, oh, it'd be interesting with, like, a queer werewolf narrative.
About your hunting in America.
Oh, there must be more.
Both with this character and another historian who is researching werewolves and referring to such as that. Every other werewolf is either a sad, lonely gay or a violent predator gay. Why are they treating being turned into werewolves as a bad thing? Because they start killing people.
That's usually bad.
They do start carrying people.
One by one. It is only when people know each other well that they run out of things to say.
This game looked awesome.
Never be so cursed.
Throughout the game, he does come on to Gabriel Knight very often. He really, really likes to make men into werewolves because he loves men and he's lonely and he wants his lovely, lonely gay wolf men.
Okay.
In an attempt to build his little gang of werewolves.
So this is a classic piece of gay representation that...
It's, I believe, an attempt... Again, to just do gay character as like a weird, interesting thing. Paper thin reading for HIV/AIDS, honestly, not surprising. I would not be surprised. You do end up killing him. You throw him into a fireplace and he explodes. Lots of people being burned to death by coincidence, and it does lift the curse of the werewolf if everyone reverts. There needs to be a media where the ghoulie is a cool badass, actually.
And what is our last killer?
And our last killer, which is just really, I guess this is the F&B section, but I think the killer loops into it. And it is interesting to talk about, before we get in the next section, where more wider gay representation was in the time period.
What's next? We have a long storied history of FNB games featuring gay murderers and general dead gay people. What comes after that?
So let's talk about a new one. Let's talk about a new one, dude.
Let's talk about...
I don't know if we can say this one either.
I don't think... I mean...
I'm gonna play it safe and call this character Tracker.
Tracker?
This is the first entirely queer video game.
You know, a lesbian friend of mine gave me the D card once, but I'm not gonna flex it on stream.
Also, can't say it. Sorry. It's okay because this game's a text adventure. We can play a little bit of it.
I can play a little bit of it. I don't think that the name reads as TOS. I just don't want to say it necessarily.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Because this is a game that is fully playable in its entirety on archive.org.
Any of these games that are available, I will be happy to put in the Discord for anyone to play.
Yeah, this is a game. This is a game that is very easily accessible, and a lot of these older games run in archives.
The world's first game.
It's not just a game. It's a game.
I'm reading the quote. Finally, a computer game for the rest of us, developed by what's their name? CM Ralph, who is currently transgender, and preferred pronouns are they, them, and their.
Okay. Another they, them.
Tracker Mickey D's is the first ever queer character to be a playable star of a video game, which is something so entirely interesting to me. They've been making the game joke since literally the first opportunity to make the joke. First one, a lot more. This is our Mr. Game & Watch, I would say. You take the role of a lesbian detective, Tracker Mickey D's, searching for their friend and drag queen, Tessie LaFemme, who's gone missing from the Castro. Anyone who doesn't know what the Castro is, it is a district of San Francisco that played a very significant role in gay and lesbian history. Over time, eventually almost entirely, probably considered the first gay district in the United States, and thus was the centerpiece of the vast majority of gay rights movements and progression throughout the United States. So the next, I think, 3 video games were developed in the same area.
Let's go CM Ralph.
In case you don't know, this game's author refers to as charityware and requests that you make a donation to any AIDS charity of your choice in any amount. Because this game did occur in the middle of the AIDS crisis.
Yeah, this is 1989.
This is let me double check just to make sure. Yes, 1989 game. I like that the game room is there.
Oh, Dulligan Straight Man.
I wonder who the murderer might be.
I don't know. Here's the thing about this kind of stuff is I think this I have a deep appreciation for, like, I can't even call it like, oh, this is a slur, just given the context of its use and
no, not at all.
It clearly is a word that is taking on a different context.
Entirely.
Oh, cool. I would like yum. Oh, can I talk to it?
Fish.
This is a reference to a fish named Wanda.
Is that a thing?
I think that is a thing.
Referring to the creator of the video game, they did very much emphasize that very many things in this video game are inside jokes.
This feels like it might be an early edition of the widely loved tradition of what you call it, just making a video game partially for your friends to enjoy.
Yeah. So I got approached by this guy, and he says, I run a bulletin board system, underground bulletin board in San Francisco that I would love to take your software and put it on there so people would download it. I'm like, sure. That's how it ended up on the first bulletin board. From there, it organically went places.
Oh,
it went
I guess
all the way across the United States. Oh, you died?
I think I got arrested for some reason. It said that I got arrested too fast for me to read it, and then the game closed. Like, it was a creepypasta game.
You give it some more attempts. The point is that they kept running into people. I think the game sold, eventually, quote-unquote, sold 250,000 copies across the world, which is kind of insane.
That's sort of a ton.
It was reported in the Washington Blade that Cynthia Yaki, as well as one 14-year-old boy, were the only people to solve the game by November 1989. Which is one of the funniest things in the world, just inherently. CM Ralph also made a follow-up version of the game that was sold, called Murder on Main Street, which was an adaptation of the game to be less gay, because they needed money, and were hoping people would buy it.
It's so sad.
They said, I didn't make a lot of money, but a steady income for many years from that program. It cracked me up that people were loving this game and buying it and had no idea it was gay. In the straight version of the video game, the cafe partners that you see, which are the first gays in there, they do just swap their graphics with each other.
Oh, they just put the ladies in the background?
They just swap one of the men and one of the women. They just swap them.
Really funny. But it is really cool to see stuff from, like, 1989.
From a queer developer in 1989 making an indie game about being gay in the most gay district of the United States.
Yeah, during a really pretty fucking shitty time to be a gay person in the United States.
No, extremely.
And also
Which
that the developer is still out there today and is non-binary now? Like, cool.
The developer is non-binary, transgender.
Yeah,
has never worked as a game designer, which is quoted as them as saying, this is something that's been misrepresented many times.
I think that that's awesome. It's really rare to see, like, old gay stories, especially starring people who still fucking exist.
Like, an in-joke of a fellow homosexual from a million years ago is something that's just sort of, like, magical to see.
We do that now!
We do that now. We also make vague reference to the thing and refer to things as video games of the Y. Isn't that weird?
Things have not changed as much as you may have thought that they did. Who's next on our roster?
Can you guess who's next? I'll give you a hint. It's another queer video game from a similar time period. The Gay Blade is our next character. You cashed in all of your old queer game knowledge with that. The Gay Blade is real. Not only is the Gay Blade real, it was only recently found.
Yes, this was lost for a really long time, I think.
It was considered abandonware because the source code had been lost. But a 19-year-old who used to sneak into his computer lab and spend hours playing video games did have duplicates of pretty much everything and was able to find the Gay Blade. Gay Blade was lost media, not anymore.
Well,
the world's first gay and lesbian video game.
Well, a different game just laid claim to that, Gay Blade.
As you play some of this, I'm going to read a few quotes. This is from the developer Best. I grew up in downstate Illinois, rural redneck Illinois. I had just entered high school and when I was outed by a friend who knew about me. That was on a Friday, and by Monday, the entire high school knew about me, and the tormenting, threats, and bullying started and didn't stop. Eventually, I came home from school, and it was so bad that, of course, I'm not going to talk about that on Twitch. Eventually, I made my way westward to California, and it was in the Castro when I started to work on the game. But even there, I still carried the emotional scars of what happened to me in high school. In a very real way, Gay Blade became my therapy. I put every type of person that bullied me into the game as a monster that we had to destroy, and I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. When the game was done and finished and released, it was as if all of my baggage was gone. I felt confident and stopped being intimidated by my memories of Illinois. It was very empowering. I didn't really think anyone would buy the game, but it started selling hundreds of thousands of copies. I donated a lot of copies to charities because I wanted to help the community. It was all just us back then. It was during the AIDS crisis and there wasn't too much fun, too much good things happening. This is one of the small ways which I hope to lighten, even if just for a moment or two, the heavy burdens or sorrows of many people.
I may have softlocked Gay Blade after 2 seconds.
Qweave, I think you softlocked Gay Blade. Qweave, you're losing all of your health. You've lost 2 hit points. Probably the sun with sunglasses. Oh god, it's an enemy.
Oh god, this might not function.
Look, we're giving him each a try.
It like, keeps flashing for like 1 second. The flux of scab? Yeah, I think this game is not working. Well,
better luck next time. All of your team members have been killed. You will have to remember. You'll have to restart from the beginning.
is there just
Let me look up some Gayblade gameplay.
I'm just gonna look up Gayblade gameplay.
There is a German release article that. Let me read one single thing. They found the game in newspapers when it was still lost media, because it was pretty much gone, aside from press coverage that it received in 1993. He said his phone was ringing all night with calls for interviews. Coverage included the NPR, USA Today, dozens of national and international gay, lesbian, bi, trans newspapers, and Der Spiegel magazine. He was interviewed by Howard Stern on his radio show.
Oh my god.
Gayblade does not have a PC gaming entry. It's because, again, they couldn't find it for a while. And eventually it was translated into a game called Dragon Blade, which was the same game. Oh, homophobic cop.
Confess.
I'm a little bit worried about some of the things homophobic cop might have to say. Oh, well, this person
I think he does just say confess.
Confess. This player was defeated by homophobic cop, unfortunately. Or their game crashed in some way. This may be a difficult video game.
He had originally written the game as something called Dragon Blade, but it was a bad contract and he did not make much money from the sales, so he took 40,000 lines of Dragon Blade code to make a gay and lesbian spoof called Gayblade.
I think, again, this is in the same camp as Tracker, where I just think this is a very cool piece of history. This feels like it's the piece of history section. These are...
The history section continues.
These are elder gay developed titles that are not too different from... I guess we can talk about final thoughts once we finish the section. So let's not get too deep into it yet. But our next one, if we're ready.
This next one will not have a slur in it for sure.
Okay.
I know that for a fact.
Our next one is Fubar?
Fubar! This is Fubar from Fubar versus the DEA. Open it up, Qweave.
Does anybody know this one?
Does anybody know Fubar versus the DEA? Fubar versus the Drug Enforcement Administration? Yes. Yes, indeed. This is a Macintosh game. It did have 2 sequels that are now lost media that are Fubar versus the FCC and Fubar versus his local school board. In Fubar versus the local school board, he has to save him and his boyfriend's adopted son from religious fanatics that have taken it over.
Oh my god.
In this one, he is just fighting the DEA. Fubar versus the DEA, I'm glad that you asked. Let me grab this article. Oh, here's the story. Read it.
Oh god. Fubar's boyfriend, Ned, has been imprisoned in the DEA's mind control camp for drug offenders. Even though Ned was caught with only a joint on him, 21st century law clearly states that he must receive treatment. Fubar needs to bring him to the camp's airspace and, among other things, destroy Nosy the computer. Nosy compiles data on every human in America, and when someone starts looking suspicious, Nosy sends the DEA to their house. After killing Nosy, Fubar will be reunited with Ned. Oh, amor! And, we're fighting Marlboro?
Yeah, you're fighting the Marlboro Man. You're fighting Marlboro Man.
I found one of my buttons. I found one of my buttons. So what's the developer of this game?
The developer, I'm not sure if they are gay, but it was very explicitly made as a gay character in response to counterculture, which is, again, why you can kind of see, because they are fighting the DEA. I'm going to read a couple bit of an interview from a response, Mike saying, "I'll start out by saying it, this game rocks." This is a review from 1997. Adam, the graphics of this game are superb. The graphics are so nicely done. Bright, colorful, and carry a decent amount of detail. In keeping with the not-so-serious tone of the game, they're cartoony enough to be humorous, too. The comic books pows and splats up on screen when things blow up are a nice touch. The background scrolls smoothly and look nice.
Flag.
Oh, are you?
I got the pride flag power out. I don't know what that does for me, but I have it.
I think they show what all the power-ups do at the beginning.
This is
You're kind of kicking ass at Fubar versus the
This is a very funny video game to be on this list.
He is a very explicitly gay character, is the thing. Which is interesting, because I don't think, especially at the time, that many people are making gay characters for a shoot-'em-up. Oh! That he's a weird superhero man who's flying... to the beginning of the level again? It's okay. We can fight through. He's flying to save his wonderful boyfriend.
I think that this one is interesting, because like you said, I don't know, and in fact doubt that this game is made by a gay developer.
Yeah.
But also, it's really fascinating how at this point in time, like, a 90s countercultural thing was like, yeah, I'm making a game and it stars like a gay character, and that's it. Also, this is so fucking tiny. I just saw how small this game is on this list.
On the stream?
I think I'm done with Fubar.
You think you're done with Fubar? Okay, I'm gonna show you one more thing. Here's one more image for Fubar. This is Fubar, and this is the windscreen. This is the windscreen for Fubar. In case you didn't think this was a gay character, here's Fubar and Ned together again.
There they are!
This is such an awesome image.
Fubar and
Ned wins.
Together again! Heart. Like, it's interesting seeing something that, is from this time period and does not reek of, like, queer creator, but is also not really, like, being funny about it outside of generally, like, a goofy presentation.
It's specifically making a weird gay F-Zero guy and being like, yeah, we want to make this guy because gay people aren't treated very well.
Yeah, and that's it. Big contrast from a lot of countercultural people now who are like, I'm countercultural, and their counterculture is just being like a horrible person.
Fubar feels very like drawn in a sketchbook type character.
Yeah.
Like, I'm imagining this guy as like a color pencil man. We're beginning on a soft next section.
Alright, what's our next section?
We're slowly transitioning. And our transition period, with this big streak of gay devs, is our last gay dev for a minute, and that's going to be big hit. It's M.U.L.E. Ladies and gentlemen, it's M.U.L.E.
We have played M.U.L.E.
We've played M.U.L.E. before. We played the NES version of M.U.L.E.
We played the NES version of M.U.L.E.
M.U.L.E. is one of, maybe, I think, with all of my research, one of the most important queer video games.
Really?
Like, kind of inarguably.
What's so important about M.U.L.E.?
Okay, so... Let me grab this. The lead designer of M.U.L.E. and the creator of the game was Danielle Button-Berry, who was a Atari developer, a game dev in the 1980s. In the early 90s, she did transition and was a trans woman in game design. She was one of the pioneering voices for multiplayer in video games, at a point where it was like not considered at all, and to some degree sort of being disconnected entirely. So this is a game that was built for 4-player. We won't be playing with 4-player. You'll be kind of fucking around in it. No, you can say M.U.L.E. It's fine.
I have to figure out what my option button is, and then we'll be good, okay?
Okay.
You can keep talking about M.U.L.E. You don't have to stop for me.
I'll talk about
it. I literally don't know what buttons do anything, so you can just talk.
Thursday stream game? I think it would be an awesome Thursday stream game, actually. The plot of this video game in particular is that you go into a planet and you do supply and demand. You run around and you dig and you get a various amount of things that give you wealth, and those things can say, for example, if I refuse to sell for one of my friends...
Okay, I can't play this because I don't have the buttons that I need. It's not looking up gameplay.
Okay. So it's less about M.U.L.E in specific, but more about Daniel Barry as a whole, who is, I think, probably the most prolific game dev, queer game dev of the 1980s through 1990s, honestly. This game got really, really, really huge in a really weird way. To quote them, here's a quote about, when did you first realize that M.U.L.E was something special? I'm not sure whether M.U.L.E is something special or not. As with all of my games, I thought that M.U.L.E was alternately wonderful and terrible. During development, I get more excited about the game as I design solutions to problems. Later, when it's finished, I'm glad to see the complete product and proud of it. When the reviews come in, I'm almost always disappointed. Even a critically acclaimed game gets some criticism. And then when actual users write to tell me about how much they enjoyed it, I get excited again. However, if I go back to play a game a year or so, I'm inevitably depressed by all the problems I see in the design. Finally, regardless of whether a product succeeds or fails, there's always room to second-guess yourself or learn the wrong lessons, all of which lead to some ambivalence about the game. But good or bad, it's my baby, and I'm glad I built it. Over time, a lot of developers would regularly say that M.U.L.E was the game that game devs love. There is a point where, if you're like a game dev looking for like, this is the craziest game ever made, everyone would go to M.U.L.E. Because the idea of a game where all the systems interlock in that sort of way, that 4 different people would play together at the same time, that was this huge thing that no other game was choosing to do.
Especially, and this is from like the early 80s.
A 4-player game on Atari was already like very uncommon. And here's a quote, what's the attraction of designing multiplayer games? This is an article from, let me see if I wrote down the date on this one. This is a very, very old article. I don't think I was able to find the date, but it was on her website. I believe this is from 92, if I remember it. Let me grab this one. What's the attraction of multiplayer games? I originated this glib and somewhat morbid comment years ago for a keynote address. No one on their deathbed says, I wish I've spent more time with my computer. The point being that when faced with the Grim Reaper, the more meaningful things in one's life seem to be the people we connected with. Designing things that help people connect with each other adds meaning in my life. Or as my ex, the psychologist, puts, I'm working out my childhood issues. Multiplayer games have finally started becoming mainstream. Do you think some of your forgotten titles like Robot Rascals would fit well into today's market? Indeed, I'm amazed you even know about Rascals. It was one of the best kept secrets, a computer game without a solo mode for families to play together. It sold all of its 9,000 copies, but I love the design, look forward to finding a home for it again. So, it makes you feel weird and optimistic about hearing about weird small-time queer devs successfully making stuff. And it's specifically the degree of influence that the industry had. Like, here's a quote that might surprise you. I think I talked about this one on stream a bit ago. And this is from an interview with Miyamoto.
Oh, shit. Big M?
Yeah. When he was talking about Pikmin, I think Pikmin 3 was coming out. A 4-gamer interview questions, it conjures up the image of a soccer or baseball game that never occurred to me. Still, Pikmin can be seen as a type of RTS game as well. Could you tell us any thoughts on that? Miyamoto says, I know RTS games are popular overseas, but when we were making the game, we made sure not to start on that idea. If I look back on it, a long time ago, there was this PC game I loved called M.U.L.E, which had I had made exclusively action games at this point, but vaguely felt, I want to make a game like that. There are parts of Pikmin 1 that are connected down to that. It's not like we were imitating M.U.L.E, but some part of the finished product was inspired by that.
That's such a, like, it's so, having a thing that's like your game devs, your favorite game dev's favorite game, and the game dev of that favorite game is a trans woman who's been in the industry for fucking ever is kind of awesome.
M.U.L.E was going to be ported to Genesis, and to quote Danielle Barry, the short answer of why it was canceled was that Electronic Arts was pressuring me to add bombs and guns, and I quit before I changed my design that much. It was my second conference. So, here's... It became immortalized in the story and editorial he wrote at 1994 Computer Game Developers Conference. I wish I had a copy of it because he told the story so well. Here's my summary. It was my second conference as Danielle, and my first ever post-operative one. Russ came up to me and he rushed up to me and he asked, "How'd it go?" And I said, "They canceled it." I said no to including guns and bombs. Russ nearly had a fit, and then it occurred to me he was not asking about M.U.L.E, but rather my gender surgery. We both had a good laugh, and he wrote it into a charming editorial instead of doing creative games rather than just following the perceived market.
I think that's awesome. And what else has this dev done?
This dev did a ton of games following M.U.L.E. I can grab the list. There is before M.U.L.E, there's Wheeler Dealers, Computer Quarterback, Cartels and Cutthroats, and Citron Masters. After M.U.L.E was the Seven Cities of Gold, Heart of Africa, Modem Wars, which is one of the first modem games, one of the first multiplayer ones, Command HQ, Global Conquest, and War Sport. Tragically, Daniel Barry did pass away from lung cancer in the year of 1998.
Well, that's a very big impact to make still.
No, immensely. And there was a point after her transition, which I do think I have to mention that at some point she did say that she regretted transition medically. And she says that I wish that, to some degree, I could do something else, with that.
This is
I'm
also,
going to grab some quotes about it.
This is also, being a trans person in the, transition was in, early 90s. I feel like this is a very different environment for those sorts of things than exists now, too.
Yeah.
So I feel like inherently any kind of quote about these matters is from a time so entirely separate from where we are now that it is a different environment, and that's probably worth keeping in mind if you hear anyone talk about this, because
she talks positive, for example, saying, "Needless to say, my life as a woman is not the ultimate turn on, and what did it all cost? Over $30,000 and the loss of most of my relationships to family and friends. And the costs don't end. Every relationship I make and in the future has to come to terms with this exchange, and I'm not the only one that suffers. I hate the impact this will have on my kids and their future. Anyways, I'm making it sound awful, and it's not. There are some perks, but there are important things. Like being able to be comfortable with myself and having a true love in my life that don't seem like they're contingent on the change. They're saying being my real self could have included having a penis and including more femininity in forms that made sense, and I didn't know that about myself until too late." So I feel like that's important to mention as we talk about this, alongside general roles about being transgender in the first place.
That is also a very very gender is actually complicated quote.
No, I think that's an important thing to have, because disconnected from just being there's levels to what gender exactly is for people. And if you read a lot more about Daniel Barry, there's a ton of things. A lot of people talked about how, I think there was a quote of someone at EA in 1996 who was saying, a bunch of people came up to me and they're like, "We really want to make this multiplayer again. This is something crazy." And their response was, "You have to talk to fucking Daniel Barry, because who else would be better for this?" And to some degree, there's a knowledge of there's a reason that they haven't. And that was the trans situation. But following her death in 1998, this opens us up to the next game.
No more M.U.L.E.
Professional game developer Will Wright did dedicate The Sims to Daniel Barry.
The Sims!
The Sims is dedicated to the life of Daniel Barry. I think that is in the game. Good night, Spike Mutt. I felt like that was an important one to talk about a lot, because just as a person, there's a couple of people. This is the people section. Minus The Sims, which is an important connection.
I'm just gonna play random Sims gameplay in the background, because
I think that's a good idea.
I do not want to have to launch The Sims and finagle around and figure all that crap out right now.
The Sims was one of the first games where you could be gay. In case you don't know.
A lot of people, when we asked what the first instance of gay marriage in a video game was, a lot of people said The Sims earlier in the stream.
And I'm going to read a couple of things that are really interesting. First of all, at some point they found out The Sims could be gay, and it was taken out and written down as we should probably get rid of this. And I think Will Wright saw that it was taken out and put it back in, not noting that the memo had been changed.
Is Will Wright actually awesome?
Will Wright was like, "That's weird. I think it's cool that The Sims can be gay," and wrote it in. At some point, they were doing a Sims demo for a trade show. That was a set of different scenarios that anything could happen. One of the scripts of actions that would go on, or see specific interactions, was that there was a wedding scenario, which had dozens of Sims at the same time. Only 5 of them were scripted, and they would randomly interact and do something, but otherwise there were no applause. What they didn't know was at the point that 2 of random Sims could occasionally just make out. And it was going to be random. An attendee was playing through the wedding scenario on the first day and saw 2 female Sims fall in love and share a kiss with each other. At the convention, it spread that the game The Sims, which lets you do anything, even let you be a lesbian, and drew tons of attentions to the Sims booth for the video game.
That's kind of
which
awesome.
Has not been planned to be there.
I can even be a lesbian! Yes!
Attendees all came over and be like, wait, you can have like a lesbian kiss in this game? Vincent Lopez, former editor for IGN, said, I thought it was really amazing. It felt like Will Wright was thinking in terms of adult issues, adult terms of how you find happiness, and it did feel like something new to me. For those who worked on the game, it was a dream come true, because everyone was grabbing into it. Oh, here's the quote. When he was originally hired on 1998 to program the behaviors of The Sims, Barrett was given old design documents to work off of. These included the allowance of same-sex relationships, which had been scrapped to avoid controversy. Unaware of this, Barrett programmed the feature back into the video game. When Will Wright saw this in passing, he simply said he was happy to see the feature was included again.
I think that's awesome.
Which is so funny, because then he says, for me it was embarrassing because not that there was a same-sex kiss in the game on the floor, it was that they weren't supposed to do that.
It was embarrassing that it wasn't a thing that was thought of as being an inclusion in the first place and was just an accident. I think that's cool.
They had a war room meeting on what to do about it, because they had to keep it in now, because it was a big thing that it was in the video game. And following that, there was this talk of, okay, well, we can't also leave it exactly the same, because people are very mad about it. And their solution that they gave was that any Sim could be gay as long as you come onto them.
Okay.
So a Sim will never be gay towards you, but if you want to be gay with a Sim, you can.
Is this the beginning of the bisexual era of video games?
Oh, we will get there. We will get there.
Oh yeah, if you're on the fucking edge of your seat waiting for that, don't worry. That's a whole entire...
We've got another row.
That's a whole nut to crack. We are not into modern day. We are gonna be getting in, like, you can see we're kind of at this point moving forward in time a little bit. So
player sexual smiley face. So here's a number of quotes referring to The Sims. Quote from Reddit user Ergun. The Sims helped me a lot. I was only 5 years old when The Sims came out, but I remember it was a huge part of my childhood since same-sex relationships were possible. The connotation that you could just do that played a huge role in my perception of sexuality. It wasn't wrong, but one of the most normal things ever. So for a lot of people, The Sims was just this really weird thing for the fact that it's like, yeah, you could be gay. Here's another follow-up that I think is really funny. This is the last one I'll talk about in regards to The Sims, because I think you could talk about forever about the fucking...
The Sims...
This article's one of my favorite ones.
I feel like The Sims is something you could share a million little anecdotes about this stuff regarding it.
The game had an expansion called Living Large that was, by the ESRB, given an M rating even though the game had been T. The team had been prepared for the original Sims to be rated M because of the inclusion of the love bed, which allowed Sims to have sex.
Oh yeah, woohoo, you mean.
And was prepared to remove it if necessary. However, it turned out that when they went to support it, it wasn't because of the sex, it was because the game had same-sex, like, romance in it, which gave it an automatic M rating.
Oh my god.
And
dude,
they had not known it at the first one, because they shipped the game and didn't realize it, and then they gave it a T, and Maxis and EA had a huge argument with the ESRB to say, hey, the game's already fucking out. This is an expansion. You can't make the expansion M, the game is already out. People are going to be mad about that. And eventually they were able to push ESRB down to keeping it a T rating.
I was like, ESRB is like a weird background villain in some of these things.
Yeah, no, explicitly. Like, it's very Fubar would kick the shit out of him, dude.
Fubar versus the ESRB.
Fubar 4 would be Fubar versus the ESRB.
Well, it would have been if the ESRB was relevant in literally any way at this point, but they kind of aren't.
Eventually. I'm gonna grab some water real quick. You can talk about The Sims if you like. The next one's fun. The next two are gonna be people.
The Sims being rated M. I feel like, actual Sims thing. I think that The Sims is interesting because, although maybe not an explicitly queer thing, it's also something I absolutely have known people who have used it to, like, do gender exploration or whatever, too. Like, it's such a interesting game because it is a framework that can be adapted to work for basically anybody, for basically any purpose. Even going back to these early ones that had a very basic structure. That's just my opinion. That's my thought. That's my Sims thought, everybody. Dude, every single person not every person, but I've known an insane amount of people in real life who are not, like, online people, who are gay or whatever, and they all fucking love The Sims. The Sims is unspeakably massive and has been forever. I think it's funny that one of the immediate draws to it was that you can be a not straight person. You can live out crazy, crazy scenarios, like kissing somebody who's kind of like you.
Okay. So, the next one's going to be a shocker. The next two are about the people, not about the character. The character is just a representation he stands for, okay?
Alright.
This one's very Sims-esque. It might be Sims parallel. Qweave?
The people. Oh, shit! I know these guys! The people of Simcopter! Yep. I know these people!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the people of Simcopter.
I was wondering if Simcopter would be here. Hold on.
I'm linking you a video of the Simcopter himbos.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm mad excited for this one. Wait a minute. This is awesome. Isn't this another Will Wright joint?
Will Wright was involved in it.
I know he wasn't it wasn't his baby or anything like that.
I think he was the designer to some degree with it, not programming, not publishing or whatever. This is just an example. Oh yeah, by the way, that weird sound is supposed to be a kiss.
They're kissing, they're smooching.
Yeah. This game is notorious.
So explain what's going on here, yeah.
Designer Jack Servin put an Easter egg that would generate shirtless men in Speedo trunks who hugged and kissed each other and would appear on only certain dates, such as Friday the 13th. The developer, he cited his actions as a response to intolerable working conditions at Maxis and being denied time off. He reported that he added the studs, as he called them, after a straight programmer programmed bimbo characters into the game and wanted to highlight the implicit heterosexuality of many games. Although he had initially planned for the characters to only appear occasionally, the random number generator he created had malfunctioned, leading them to appear constantly. If you look up Simcopter himbos, you will find ones that are like 1 million of them.
That's so incredible.
An entire audience of them. I should have called this the Simcopter himbos.
I think the people of Simcopter is fine. I really... Oh my god, stop kissing him! You're sucking his goddamn life out, dude! What the hell? Stop it! Was this developer a gay man?
Yes, so Jacques Servin, who is the new main character of this segment, is a gay man.
Let's go!
Now, he eventually credited this Easter egg to a group called RT Mark that claimed responsibility for the Easter egg, along with 16 other acts of creative subversion. Which, what the fuck does that mean, you might ask?
I'm really confused about what the creative subversion is.
RT Mark was one of 2 anti-consumerist collectives, which were originally founded by Jacques Servin. Jacques Servin is also a leading member of a much bigger one that's called the Yes Men.
Okay.
The Yes Men are a culture-jamming activist duo and network of supporters created by Jacques Servin who exist to promote awareness about problematic social and political issues.
Okay.
So let me read a couple of examples of Yes Men shenanigans that have occurred following his departure from Simcopter.
So this is what this guy's up to now after making the Simcopter himbos.
On December 3rd, 2004,
I'm just gonna leave this video. I don't even
the
care.
20th anniversary of a chemical disaster by Dow Chemical that struck Bhopal, India, estimated 3,800 people dead from toxic chemicals.
That's pretty bad.
They paid the average amount to a family was $2,000. The Yes Men created a fake Dow Chemical website that said that the Dow Chemical Company had no intention whatsoever of repairing the damage. The real company received considerable backlash and eventually denied the statements. The Yes Men decided to do so further, and he went onto the news to claim that Dow planned to liquidate Union Carbide and use the resulting $12 billion to pay for the medical care. In Frankfurt, Dow Chemical's share price fell 4.24% in 23 minutes, wiping $2 billion off of its market value.
Let's go, Simcopter!
Eventually, they rebounded after a BBC on-air correction, but in New York, it was too late due to early trading, so the stocks were basically unchanged.
I think that's awesome.
I have a couple more of just these things that the fucking Yes Men got up to.
Let's hear like one or two more.
Yeah, there's two more. I have exactly two more.
Awesome.
One of the Yes Men's most famous pranks is placing a corrected World Trade Organization website over here. The fake site began to receive real emails from confused visitors, including invitations to address various elite groups on behalf of the World Trade Organization, to which they responded as if they actually were. At the World Trade Organization, the Yes Men gave speeches encouraging corporations to buy votes directly from citizens. They then unveiled a gold spandex bodysuit that they said would allow productivity to increase, as managers would not have to oversee workers in person, but could keep track of them via images on an attached screen as well as implanted sensors.
Okay.
On June 14th, 2007, the Yes Men acted during Canada's largest oil conference in Calgary, posing as ExxonMobil and National Petroleum Council representatives. When they arrived at the conference, they said that Lee Raymond, the promised speaker, was unable to make it due to a pressing situation with the president. The Yes Men went on to give a fake presentation in their place. In the actual speech, they announced that the current U.S., Canadian, and American energy policies are increasing the chances of huge global calamities, but reassure the audience that in the worst-case scenario, the oil industry could keep the fuel flowing by transforming the billions of people who would die into oil. The project, called Vivolium, would work in perfect synergy with the continued expansion of fossil fuel production. The oil men listened to the production with attention and then lit commemorative candles. At this point, the event's security recognized the Yes Men and forced them off stage, and the punchline that the candles were made of Vivolium obtained from the flesh of an Exxon janitor who died cleaning a toxic spill was not divulged to the audience, but only to reporters covering it.
Oh. I think that this guy might be one of my favorite characters of the night. Is the starting
there
small.
There are so many.
Starting small by making Simcopter himbos and then progressing further and further into being a weird gay disruptor by just infiltrating oil meats and being crazy. I think that's so cool.
If you want to read about the Yes Men, please continue. Feel free.
Yeah,
there's a lot. Some of it's stupid. Some of it's like questionable.
Some of these things are always stupid because this was like a peak era of weird social being a disruptor, and not everything's gonna be a hit. But sometimes when you're on, you're on.
Speaking of political action,
our next one.
Speaking of political action, this is another character-based game.
Our next entry to Gale is
incarcerated queer Americans. Incarcerated queer Americans.
Oh, okay.
So this is another one of the very first video games developed by a gay dev. And that's the only reason this is on here. This is about the Warden game developed by Ed Mead. You can play like one lap of the Warden game. This was made while in prison at Washington State Reformatory by Ed Mead, a queer prisoner. And it is a game that explores power in prison and how individuals exercise it.
When is this from?
1987.
Let's see. I'm sitting in my office pondering things when the captain comes. We have been getting kites indicating that around 6 influential prisoners. I think that we should give them... Should I be like a fucking crazy ass warden? Should I really
I think it should be a good
prisoners?
warden.
I think that it's awesome. Like I should like them for being anti-administration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they get special privileges. Oh, they don't want to hang out with me? Oh, well, I didn't know it would be fucking... I'm telling them to have sex. I thought that I was gonna give them, like, weapons or something. Oh my god, and now they're getting mad at me? It's okay. It's okay. I like that they're printing their little paper. And now the chief of Department of Corrections is calling me on the phone and demanding I make every effort to crush it.
Yeah, that's free speech.
Kind of mess with free speech, actually.
Oh!
That's my warden adventure. I literally cannot do that.
The Warden game is a hopeless journey. It is an entirely hopeless journey by Ed Mead. So, in case you're curious, what Ed Mead was in prison for, it was for bombing a Department of Correction headquarters in Olympia.
Okay.
Ed Mead was a... Let me read this. There's a very interesting description of him specifically. I'm going to grab the information. He's the founder of an in-prison organization called Men Against Sexism, which was specifically about in-prison redirecting authority to queer prisoners inside and basically fighting back against sexual assault and forming a self-contained radicalized group. Quote-unquote, Men Against Sexism was a revolutionary queer, trans, and poor radicalized prison group arming themselves with solid class, gender, and race analysis along with guns to make prisons safer for queer and trans prisoners from the inside and out. This information comes from a 1970 document about Men Against Sexism that was printed to be distributed across prisons. Ed Mead was a revolutionary, queer, godless commie and ex-political prisoner who went to jail for his part in a group called the George Jackson Brigade, named after a former Black Panther member, which carried out a number of bombings, bank expropriations, and a prisoner liberation to further anti-capitalist struggle in the Pacific Northwest.
You're doing a bad job at not making him sound awesome.
The George Jackson Brigade was a Seattle-based armed revolutionary group active in the 70s. They named them after George Jackson, a member of the Black Panthers murdered by the state after a failed prison escape. The George Jackson Brigade was a group of queer women and men, ex-cons, working class, and radicalized folks. The group was made up of both anarchists, Marxists, and carried out 15 bombings, 16 expropriations, and 1 prisoner liberation with the goal of delivering sweet retribution to the jailers and capitalists of the U.S. soil. So, I had read about the Warden game, and I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. This is an interesting thing. And then I started reading about Ed Mead, and the slow progression of once he got into prison and started forming Men Against Sexism, which did come to an end after, once he had gotten out of prison, former Men Against Sexism members were trying to use it to smuggle drugs into prison.
Aww.
My feeling was, if it's going to be another social club and mechanism for smuggling drugs, we might as well smash it against the wall and kill it.
Ed Mead sounds... I don't know. I think it's really interesting that this all centers around a weird, tiny video game that he made.
He made a video game while in prison and was focused on transferring computers to different prisoners as an access to... I can't control F on this because I am looking for literally a print document that's scanned and meant to be passed around. But they did refer very explicitly about how once computers started being passed around, they started progressively being shut down by prison systems, despite 80% of people who were in the program to use the computers went on to receive well-paying jobs and refers to it as being the reason why the program was moved in the first place. A gym and martial arts studio was established in the club. On one wall, a life-size silhouette was painted and used for kicking practice. Mead, unable to resist an opportunity to polysterilize, wrote the letters KKK on the target's chest.
And this was a gay game developer, technically.
Who made one single video game.
One single game while in prison.
While in prison about the pointlessness of prison leadership.
Wanna move on to our
I'm happy to move on.
Entry?
So that's the end of historical queer gaming.
This is, I feel like that's a really interesting section. What I was going to say, but I did not say because I wanted to finish the quote-unquote section, is it is really cool seeing all these super early projects or things by actual queer people, just given that it is sort of a weird reflection of a lot of the stuff that, like, my friends are making now.
Yeah, like, that's what's so interesting about it, because obviously the first bit is like, okay, yeah, here's gay characters people put in video games. Here's the things that gay people put in video games. Which is the exact parallel, and it's such an interesting sort of development of things that came from that. And the exceedingly, like, sort of personal grievance, like, everything in this section is so weighty comparatively, obviously. Yeah. And you look back at fucking Jolly Roger.
I was about to say, it's so funny going through this section, and it's like, love letters to the queer community, or, like, venting things that a person who went through a lot of, like, who experienced a ton of homophobia in their, like, youth made to kind of fucking get some feelings out, or a weird countercultural thing where a gay guy explodes the DEA, or a totally not really outwardly queer in any way project made by a trans woman who has done a ton of awesome stuff, or The Sims. Which I guess The Sims is, it's The Sims, right?
The Sims is The Sims, but the tie of The Sims is interesting.
Yeah, or obviously the crazy stuff that Simcopter guy and Ed Mead got up to. And then I look back and I'm like, man, we were debating fucking if Ike is really gay.
Is he really gay?
Ago. You know, we're talking about fucking Jolly Roger and...
No, because that's what I mean. I look at this and I see, like, M.U.L.E, and I see The Sims, and even I see fucking Warden Game, and I think some British fuck was out here going like, I'm gonna make a guy called Jolly Roger.
I think a gay character would be quite funny! I'm going to put this in my game! Hooray! Everyone will love my dry British humour!
And it's such an interesting contrast of perspective of gay people and gay people existing and doing their own fucking thing, which is so just cool to see alongside each other. You wish Jolly Roger wasn't like that because that design is cute. That's, like, fair.
You can change him.
You can change him. We can change
Let's
him.
move on out of this section, though. And
we're moving on
section.
To the final section, and this final section is gay video games beyond. This is the final era. And before I mention this one, I want to preface this. It's the funniest shit in the world that this was on this list, because this was decided 3 weeks ago.
I know exactly what it is now. Because I know exactly. I know. Yeah, it's fucking.
And I was checking my Twitter.
Everybody. She's blown up in the past week.
In the past week! Mighty Jill-Off blew the fuck up for some reason!
Boot sent me a message before this character suddenly was everywhere on Twitter saying, like, by the way, this is one of the things you might want to download for the stream.
Yeah. You haven't seen this character since Super Meat Boy? It was so shocking because some fan artist drew her and was like, hey, look, this is a character that exists. You're gonna have to see her. You've seen so much in the last couple of weeks. It's crazy. Jill-Off was gonna be fucking one of those, man. It's so fucking weird. You haven't seen this character since freaking Super Meat Boy? I was expecting this, like, I like that you didn't test this. I was expecting, like,
I did it because I had no reason to believe that it would not, like, function.
That's fine. We're chilling. I'll open up chat on my stream and I'll do some talking here. So Qweave is gonna play Mighty Jill-Off for a little bit. I think this is a good one to play because it's not very long. and it's very hard. She's a video game character. You thought she was gonna see.
My ass is not gonna beat the. This game's art style is fucking crazy for something made in like 2000.
Most of the game doesn't look like this.
I know, but just the art for it is kind of like, whoa, it's kind of crazy.
You saw a post about Muddy Jill-Off today. Yeah, it's ridiculous that this is something that was like coming up. Yeah, so I was expecting this to be like a big sort of quote-unquote weird reveal.
It's not anymore. Everyone started talking about it. Now it's fucking normal. Everyone knows this character.
You might want to also hide this until gameplay starts, because it's a little bit horny.
Oh, really? The game about a BDSM lady called fucking Jill-Off?
Yeah, just a little bit.
You're telling me this game's a little bit horny? What the heck?
Yeah, just a little bit.
No fucking way.
That was BDSM?
Talk about the game. Talk about the game.
I think that the intro has it. Anyways, this game is by...
Okay.
This game is by Anna Anthropy, who is, I believe, a trans woman. I feel horrible if I did not think that was the case.
I do think so, because I do think that she has a game about hormone therapy. Also?
I have a lot to talk about. I believe that she is one of the most prolific queer game devs of the early 2000s. This game came out in 2008. So this was relatively early for queer video games in the first place. And even in the sphere of indie games, queer indie games were not a particularly common thing to see. And part of that's just because game dev tools weren't as prevalent as you would expect.
Is this showing up on stream? It's looking fine?
Yep, this is on stream. You're good. We turned down my parsec. And Anna Anthropy was one of the very first devs who was constantly posting it. She had been very active in developing queer stories very explicitly. Other games that she was responsible for, there's like a fucking million of them, dude. Let me grab an example.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Generally Crazy, this blew up out of nowhere. I'm actually like really shocked.
It shouldn't have. I've decided after playing for 2 minutes, I've decided that no one who's posting this character's played the game. I'm mad as hell.
One of the known ones, one of the earlier ones was Dysphoria, which is a WarioWare style minigame collection about dealing with transitioning and how that affects you, which was originally uploaded to Newgrounds.
I imagine.
And honestly, pretty much all of these games were.
These were Newgrounds things.
Most of them were uploaded to Newgrounds first, which is shockingly common for video games. Qweave has never been Cat Mario. Dysphoria is a very interesting game because she did end up having a lot of, what's it called? General kind of mixed feelings about it. And here's a quote about her talking about it. This is about Dysphoria, not about Jill-Off specifically. But I think it's an interesting one.
The video game Dysphoria, specifically.
Yeah. It's DYS, the number 4, IA.
Yes.
That says, maybe I ended up believing that the narrative that the game press spun around about this, that it was an educational game, an empathy game, a shallow work that flattened and commodified the experiences representing for the consumption of cis people eager to pin an ally medal to their chests. Maybe I never hated this game, but I hated the person I was when I made it, young, dumb, and rapidly burning through goodwill of people who genuinely saw me as a force for change in games culture and who I'd ultimately disappoint. Maybe I look back at this game and see someone making the mistakes that they still carry on my back over 10 years later. And it's... her whole role has been developing really, really personal queer fused video games, including this one, which is tied to it. Because it was the idea of nothing existed. Like, you look at something like Fubar, which might be one of the last queer games explicitly before you move on. That's not like a fucking... What's the word? Like a... Not a visual novel. It's either like a sex game. If you look at early gay video games on Flash games, everything, it's a game about you have sex and that's it. Or you're making fun of gay people. It's all fucking Jolly Rogers. So her perspective as a trans woman and a lesbian was specifically, I want to make games that have the shit that makes people uncomfortable about gay things, about having to like face up to it, and just that's what exists.
Now this character's everywhere on Twitter.
And now this character's everywhere on Twitter. Which is really weird, because I actually think it's interesting, because I feel like the age that we live in has sort of morphed into a place where this is something that people really, really, like, vibe with. Not that they didn't, like, then, but in a way that's completely different. Like, queer culture in a greater scheme exists in such a way that even a character like that could really, really just, like, become something that people are like, oh, hell yeah. Far more accepted now. It's accepted in a different way, is the phrase I'm specifically thinking.
So it turned out there was a glide button, and it's mashing the control key over and over and over again really fast.
Yeah, because it's a BDSM game. You have to suffer.
So it's like, it like hurts my pinky to play it. That's kind of cool. That's like a, that makes a lot of sense. Now I understand. Now I understand. I saw someone in fucking chat saying, Qweave, these aren't hard jumps. Find the glide button. It's control, and I have to press it 1,000,000 times. It's a weird button. It's not, and there are like fucking 5 jump buttons, and all of them do the same thing, except control, which is a jump that you can mash to do a little glide. It is there. I'm glad you said that, because I was about to just say, like, this is impossible.
I'm going to read a quote. I think more people should be telling their stories and getting them out there, says Entropy. It's part of why I try to be more visible, as much to the degree that I can, because I want people to know that there are people out there doing stuff. The only way video games become more queer is if more queer people make games. Which is a phenomenal way to put it. And I think that right now we sort of live in a point where queer people are making a lot of video games.
Yeah,
which is something that wasn't the case forever ago.
Something like this is interesting because in 2008, in the indie game scene too, right, this is a complete outlier, kind of. This is entirely. This is a weird thing by a person who does not fit what was the general perception of what, like, an independent game developer was at the time, which largely consisted of, funnily enough, I would say, a lot of Newgrounds guys, but they were mostly weird white guys making stuff where everyone bleeds and says slurs.
Yeah. This in 2008 is insane, honestly. No, seriously, like, it's unfortunate that I was mostly going to be talking about the quaintness of this and the general output of Entropy, which is something that you should really look into. There's like 100, I'm saying big numbers for something.
There are a trillion games by this person.
I mean, there's like 20 games by this person that are all really short, sweet, and like extremely fucking gay, that are all probably worth looking at. I'm really interested in looking at Queers in Love at the End of the World, which is the world is ending in exactly 12 seconds and a text adventure about what you say and do with your loved one. Which I didn't want to play on this stream, but I was very, very curious to look through it.
And ultimately, this one ended up being topical.
This one ended up being topical, which makes me kind of excited.
Do you want to move on to our next title?
Yeah, sure. This character was playable in Super Meat Boy, by the way.
Oh, great. That's kind of a downgrade, really. Oh, shit. The fucking Spiders. Alright, that's it. Oh, hold on. It gave me a safe word as escape. A little safe word message appeared at the bottom of the screen when I hit the escape button.
The next character is the one that everyone's going to do fan art of next. I'm sorry to tell you, I don't think it will be.
Oh yeah? You say that now, but it turns out the next character's...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Gay Tony from Grand Theft Auto 4.
But what about his ballad?
What about his ballad?
What about his ballad? I don't know what to fucking play for Grand Theft Auto 4, the Ballad of Gay Tony.
Just play the Grand Theft Auto soundtrack that's like dun 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 dun. You know the one, right? The GTA 4 soundtrack.
Okay,
sure. He was straight. No. Gay Tony is extremely gay.
All right, talk about this. Why? What is this guy here for?
The reason that Gay Tony is here is because Grand Theft Auto 4 was one of the biggest fucking video games ever made.
This is true, yes.
So we're looking at the world of mainstream characters in video games. In major video games. You look at the top half of that fucking list, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the top half of this fucking list. Don't worry, I'm looking at Sierra Sam and I'm looking at Jolly Roger.
Putting a major gay character in your video game in 2008 was so entirely unheard of for something that was this fucking big. The idea of, even though you don't fucking play as him, he is a main character. So you play as Louise, who works for Gay Tony. You're doing a bunch of crimes for him. Gay Tony is a gay man who owns the biggest gay bar and biggest straight bar in New York City, Liberty City. And you do a bunch of hits for him, and you have a little adventure, and he gets addicted to drugs, and you have a cool relationship. He's a fully developed character.
He's not even...
He's not a Jolly Roger. His boyfriend is a bit of a Jolly Roger.
That's not surprising. I was gonna say, this is still Rockstar, and fucking
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
GTA 5 still managed to find a way to cram weird transphobic jokes in it in, like, 2013.
Yes. Like, obviously, it's fucking Grand Theft Auto. It's a 2008 video game. But you have a outwardly front-facing gay character who exists in it and is treated like a character that you're supposed to, like, actually think of as part of the story instead of like, hey, the football team's called the 69ers.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Is bizarre, almost. I have the Gay Tony thing that I have is interesting. I have two things.
Interview of some sort?
I have something better, Qweave. My throat's hurting a little bit, so I'm gonna ask you to read this.
Okay, I can read. You have been talking a lot. My throat feels like I haven't said anything all night.
Here is a collection of forum responses on the GTA forums about the reveal of the next expansion being called Gay Tony.
Go get yourself more water, and I'll read this.
I'm gonna get more water.
Get water, and I'll read this.
Anything here that you think is interesting, you can look at.
Okay. This is a forum thread called Homophobia and the Ballad of Gay Tony. This is one of the first things I noticed when Ballad of Gay Tony was announced. The blatant homophobia. People don't want to seem to play a game, talk about, or even associate themselves with a game that has the word gay in the title. Sad, really. Do you think this is going to cause a problem for Rockstar? Will our society's ingrained fear of homosexuals damper their sales, or do you think people should just grow up and accept the fact that these people are fictional characters in a fictional game in a fictional city? It is worth noting the first response to this thread is, there's nothing wrong, spelled with no W, with taking it in the chuff if I am lonely and it's a Friday night. I love a bit of oily. ... LOL. I joke, I tease. Happy face emoji. It's a clever technique used by... I'm sorry. It's a clever technique used by Rockstar, I believe. There are bound to be homophobic players of GTA, and using this as a title puts homophobes in a difficult situation. People will want to play the game, but also be opposed to playing it because of its title. Controversy is something Rockstar always deliver. Have no problem with it. At first I thought, maybe this is a bit weird. Not because of the gay thing, just the odd name. But then it grew on me. I really like the idea. I'm just afraid that some people will judge the game solely on the fact that it focuses on a homosexual person, which disgusts me, especially in today's society when people are meant to be treated as equals regardless of their sexuality. I think there's gonna be trouble from gay groups, actually. Remember when Bully was announced and people was trying to block it because they thought it was bullying? Point is, anyone not playing GTA is gonna think, A, in a gay guy. B, they are making fun of gay guys. Want to see how Jack Thompson responds to this? Remember that fucking guy?
No, I don't.
Oh my god, Jack Thompson was public enemy #1 of, like, gamers who used the internet and read Penny Arcade. He was the fucking guy that pursued legal action, I think because of the hot coffee controversy.
Oh my god.
He was a famous, like, ESRB loving guy.
I do remember that, you're right!
Yeah.
So, the reason why I think this is so interesting
This is more progressive sounding than conversations.
No, it's crazy!
Now. I don't judge people by their color, ethnicity, sexuality, so I don't care if this DLC has a gay guy as one of the main characters.
That's such a weird reply to see as a random reply in a GTA forum in 2008, dude. Like, you get what I'm saying here, like...
Oh my god! It was the same when they made CJ. Bigots had to take their grow-up big kid medicine for that, and they'll take it for this too. Every comment on the GTA forums is just everybody saying that, like, it's actually awesome, or it's not a thing that they care about, or that it's really funny because homophobes will have to play it anyways because they want to play a Rockstar video game. And that's every single comment. Pretty much every comment is like, yeah, no, it's fine.
Like, and it's not even saying Gay Tony GTA is good representation, right?
No.
It's not even saying that. I think he's a fun character, and I do like him. But...
Uh-oh, we get one, Scotland for Life does say he does not like homosexuality, but he'll still buy it. I'll still buy this regardless of that.
It's like... It's even aside and completely disconnected from the role of a character, the idea of fucking Rockstar Games going, yeah, let's put gay on the title of our video game.
And everyone has to go buy it.
Everyone has to go buy it is weird. I think it's an interesting perspective. Again, looking back to, let's say, every Nintendo character.
Yeah.
And having not one where you can say your character is fucking gay. You can't even hint that they're gay.
And then Rockstar
you have to be like,
make a game where a character's called Gay Tony.
He's called Gay
and
Tony, and it's about working for a gay man. And it's on the box, and you have to buy it if you like GTA, because they brought back all the street fights, and there's a parachuting and shit.
I was about to say, to me, this feels like it might be one of the first instances of, like, a mainstream AAA video game that has an actual gay character in it, and that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I can think of many, like, there is a real character in this who is a gay guy video games before this point.
I'm going to quickly watch one video.
Okay.
For myself, just to make sure I can give it a skim.
What is it from?
This is from... I think 2010. I might just refer to it.
Okay, what is it?
In case you're wondering what mainstream video game culture was around the time that this expansion came out, the fact is that we also had Modern Warfare 2. And one of Modern Warfare 2's main ads that they were running online was called Modern Warfare 2 PSA Fight Against Grenade Spam. And it was about a PSA for an organization that was preventing people from shooting grenades at you.
I remember that. Oh yeah, dude, the Noob Tube Fight Against Grenade Spam, which has an interesting abbreviation. You may want
strange abbreviation that was the main marketing gimmick.
Don't spell it out in chat, but this was a distinct piece of official... I remember this, dude. This was an official piece of, like, of marketing that existed at the time. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time...
I have it here. I don't think they say anything, but just the fact that it's called that is ridiculous.
I don't think we need to linger on it.
Yeah, we don't have to, but it's the fact that all of this shit was what's being sold as. It's the climate of that specific thing. Someone mentioned Metal Gear Ocelot. But I think that's a completely different sort of like situation.
That's like Ocelot is a character that I feel
MGS3. It's a Russian taunt, the classic.
Yeah, I think that
I would even call that in the same like category.
I would say that something like Ocelot is I think you could justify having him on here, but as far as this era goes, GTA is.
I actually have a much wider article about gay characters in video games that's in this general section that I was going to talk a lot more, but it's a very curious thing. Because it has a lot of interviews with developers of like BioShock and talking about like, hey, we had that gay artist boss. Why did we make him gay? Here's why we did this. And it's this sort of point where gay characters are seeping through. Like, they're slowly filling up the cracks to be in real games and not be Jolly Roger. This one's still the killer.
Yeah.
right? But still, it's something's happening.
Yeah. Want to back to move to our next guy?
We're
Or
ready to
girl,
go to something else.
Or they then. Who's
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Samantha from Gone Home.
Oh! Oh! I thought you were just gonna put Gone Home the whole game here.
No, I put...
The house
I would
Home.
never... Qweave, I would never put one full game in its entirety on here.
Only the Gay Blade.
No, the Gay Blade was my name for the person who was the Blade.
Okay.
You don't have to play Gone Home, by the way. It's
I'm just gonna play a guy walking. I'm gonna look up Gone Home speedrun.
I was doing some research about it, and I have to say, Gone Home is probably, again, one of the most impactful queer games of all time. The Sims are the people, not the video game. The Sims are the people, not the video game. It's just the Sim. So the point with Gone Home is, in case anyone doesn't know, Gone Home is a game about going to your family's historic home, and nobody is there. Everyone's gone. You're trying to slowly piece together about what happened to everything. And the quote-unquote twist of the storyline is learning about your queer sister and the things that she has been going through and why she felt the need to leave her family and run off with her lover. And it's a interesting little story.
It is.
And
this game got... I guess we'll talk about...
That's what we're talking
this
about.
Game, yeah.
One of the best walking sims. It's so funny that there was a point where walking sim was a genre.
Well, it still is, but...
No, I mean, like not a genre. It was not a genre, is what I meant to say.
Gone Home is so interesting to me because I have thought, and I've thought this since it came out, this game received a mad amount of backlash for no real particular reason. And it is hard to ignore the fact that I think this game came to prominence in the Gamergate era.
Yes, that was the big thing. Gamergate was going on alongside Gone Home.
Yeah.
The problem with this game is that it was being considered Game of the Year, etc., etc., partially because of the care and interest with which it handled its queer characters and the overall plotline of it.
It also probably has one of the most intricately designed interiors in a video game still.
There was a response that was saying, why is this getting so many reviews, etc., etc.? This is a nightmare. They're rigging it. And I was talking to friends who didn't live through quote-unquote Gamergate. And it was this point where the driving fact of it was games were getting reviewed too high. And looking at that from present day is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, Gone Home...
Whoever cared that something gets a Game of the Year award?
Yeah, Gone Home was a very weird, like, probably one of the first notable instances I can think of the now fucking unavoidable, gamer culture war crap that you see. And I do think that, to a kind of notable degree, if it was not a queer narrative, it would not have gotten as much flack from that crowd as it ended up getting.
Yeah, here's the quote. That's a very quote, CJ. I actually have that one too. Some reporters have considered the question of whether Gone Home should be considered a video game, as it lacks the normal interactivity that one would normally have with a video game. And that's crazy, because this is like every other fucking video game now.
Are you watching this? Have you ever seen us play fucking Nancy Drew, bro? Those are video games, and they're less interactive than Gone Home is.
I saw, like, replies of this going through, like, this is fucking ridiculous. Here's a quote from one of the developers. I think there's a certain kind of tribalism to when a game like Gone Home gets to have 10 reviews and Game of the Year nominations, that people that it's not their thing can be kind of protective and say, this game isn't supposed to be on these end-of-year lists and get this kind of recognition. And the big thing that I remember, one of the big things I remember about this was the response of, you can beat this game in a minute.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you just run to the basement, you win.
But then it's like, yeah, I guess if I play the credits and the main menu of a video game, then I'm watching the credits, technically.
And it's like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point of the fucking video game. Oh, like Breath of the Wild? No, it's like, that's such a weird complaint to have, because the whole point of the game is exploring it. Like, that's the game. And to say, like, oh yeah, you can beat it, it's like, did people not know?
Yeah, you can flip to the last page
Did
of
you
a book
not
in
know?
1 second. It was weird. This was a time period where people were actively resisting even attempting to acknowledge that a video game had a specific format or was setting out to do a specific thing.
I saw a post from 2010 or whatever that was saying, like, in most games you can beat them in a really fast time, but it's like, if you're a speedrunner, it takes a million years of effort and work to even get to that point. And it's just foreign. It's entirely foreign to me. And it's weird because the driving thing of this game is it's just an interesting story that happens to center around a queer character. And all the responses were like, it's just a generic gay love story. I thought I'd be killed by a monster, but it's actually just some gay teenager
People were so
shit.
mad about that. People were so mad it wasn't a horror game. It was really, really weird. It was like, I wish this was a different video game entirely. Alright, I guess play a different game. I don't know. And it's funny because at the same time, ultimately, I do feel like in the world of notable, acknowledged video games, Gone Home might be one of the most human queer narratives from this time period.
Because it's extremely personal.
Yeah.
It's an extremely personal video game.
Yes. I think that Gone Home actually rules a little bit and is something really interesting and novel, and it kind of holds up as probably one of the better games in the bizarre little micro genre that people disparagingly called walking simulators because they hated Gone Home so much.
And then there's another quote, you look at Firewatch or The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, kind of take your pick from the games that sort of live in that space that have come since, and I think people are a little more used to, oh, it's this kind of game now. But I think way less people bat an eye now when a game is about you go to a place and story happens, gets announced. Which is so interesting because it's like an 8-year time period where it changed so entirely.
You know, if there's something we've learned, I think that, I don't know if you looked into the development of Gone Home. Is it made by an LGBT?
Okay, so I actually have an answer to that. They're a 4-person team. 2 of them are women, 1 of them is gay. Okay. Gone Home deals in part with LGBT issues. This stuff is important to us on a lot of levels.
I was gonna say... Yeah, sorry.
Penny Arcade is not an entity that we feel welcome by or comfortable operating alongside. This was them pulling out of PAX.
Do not blame them. Do not blame them at all. I was gonna say, it is really interesting. One thing that I do feel is really evident in this is how it feels that for as long as gay people have been making video games, they've been making weird novel stuff that a lot of people have not done before, and then there is a reaction to it in the industry to some point.
Immensely. And
M.U.L.E, made by a trans woman, influenced fucking Pikmin is your favorite game dev's favorite game. Gone Home spawns a genre, and as much as some gamers may have really hated it and complained about it, I do feel like the narrative influence of this game is bigger than almost any game I can think of from the same decade.
Yeah. And it's so weird because even if you look back, like if you look at The Killers, game where you look around and just read shit was so common.
Yeah.
It was what video games were.
When Gone Home was homophobic, people weren't complaining.
It's because video game where you look at shit and occasionally there's a gay person was common. Like, that's not like a weird thing. Like, I showed Orion Conspiracy. That's a game where you look around and you explore and then there's a gay person. It's so weird to see, all Lucasfilm's games were like 70% that. It feels like a shift happened. And I don't know what that shift was, but...
It's a really short shift, too. Like, in the, 4 years in between The Ballad of Gay Tony and Samantha, the mentality of the American gamer completely changed and became rabid and vicious, and they started lashing out at everything that they didn't like in some fundamental way. And it's very weird. It's weird looking back at 2009 and you see people talking about like, this is fine, and then so shortly afterwards, I don't know if it's just a completely different demographic or if there is that big of a weird culture shift among that demographic.
Yeah. So I think as gay characters, I think that Samantha belongs here.
I agree.
I think she has a place.
And you know who else has a place?
This one...
Yeah.
Yeah, hit the button. Speaking of gay indie games, speaking of gay indie games that are, I couldn't pick. There's a smorgasbord of queers who's flopping around in Undertale.
Hold on.
I couldn't pick one.
I don't even know if we need to talk about Undertale almost at all. This is such
my section for Undertale notes is blank.
Yeah, but you guys want to talk about Undertale for like 2 minutes because there's almost nothing.
Qweave, may you talk about Undertale for a bit? I think you could say exactly as much as I could.
Undertale is a game where Flowey shows up and he says, "I'm gonna get you," and then he gets you. There's nothing to say about Undertale. Undertale's full of fucking gay characters. There's almost it is impossible to choose one. I feel like Alphys and Undyne, timeless lesbian couple everybody knows and loves. Metaton, trans character, everybody knows and loves.
Also, I'm counting Deltarune under here. Undertale's the franchise.
Deltarune I'm not even gonna talk about, because then it gets too fucking convoluted. There are too many in there.
Literally, so the main reason that I have Undertale here is I don't think I've ever seen that positive a response to just gay characters chilling.
This is a complete bizarre little shift after talking about Gone Home and the weird nature of games in that time period. It's so strange how inconsistent the reaction to these things tends to be, based entirely on whatever culture war crap is happening at the time, I guess. But Undertale had some level of complaining. Obviously, you can't really get away from that. But it feels like this game had almost nothing but positive reaction. And I said lesbian relationship. Yeah. Alphys is bi because she likes Asgore also. This is canon.
And it's something about, like, I don't know what particular it is, but Undertale got around. Like, it threaded the needle that made people really, really like it and became the biggest video game ever made. For, like, not, like, exaggerating, obviously, but kind of.
Yeah, I don't know, you have fucking, you have the guards, they're gay.
You're saying, I guess people have problems with the non-binary gender-neutral protag thing. It's weird because it's so fucking not, dude. The fact that people love this game so much, the fact that this game is such, like, a memorable thing. I always think of the one fucking GDQ where Undertale was the final game. And they did the big hug the goat moment shit. And I think that's the most positive I've ever seen a Twitch chat ever in my life. For something with, like, over 50,000 viewers. Like, every single fucking thing with this is so strange with regards to a video game that is very explicitly queer.
And yeah, I was gonna say, Himbo in chat has a good point that's worth mentioning. I cannot think of any even vaguely recent video game that has led to so many people having various revelations about themselves as Undertale and Deltarune both. Like, if you count the two as a unit...
Yeah, I'm counting them as a unit.
M.U.L.E is like the fucking trans girl name that you see so often. We know a spectacular one. The best one, really.
The best one.
And that character serves as a blueprint for so many people. Undertale had made so many people have a weird little, like, man, maybe I kind of relate to some of these characters who have these feelings that I also have. It's so crazy.
I look at fucking Undertale, and I look at fucking Fubar, dude.
Yeah, what about them?
I'm just, like, looking at them next to each other, and there's, like, some link.
I feel like Undertale is genuinely a, like, how far we have come, because to my knowledge, Toby Fox is just like a guy. He's just like
Toby Fox is just a dude.
But he wrote a narrative that's extremely compelling to a big community of people who completely embraced it, and I do think it is kind of an interesting mark. It's an interesting point where it does become apparent that you don't necessarily need to be, you know, queer to, you know, spin a compelling and exciting yarn that engages
the missing link is unstuck. Sure.
I
get what you mean by that, but it's something so interesting to me, the success of Undertale, to be, like, the game that everybody knows. Which isn't very, like, in the greater scheme of things, that big, but honestly nothing here is.
Yeah.
Except maybe The Sims. I was gonna say, what's more recognizable than Undertale here, and it's probably The Sims.
But honestly, I don't think there's much to say about Undertale. It's all conversations that have been had a million times.
Yeah.
It is a game that is, in a really weird way, so interwoven with the a countless amount of queer people, some of whom I personally know. Like, it is a weirdly inescapable, just kind of anomaly as far as video games go.
In case it's not obvious, what's it called? This is the section of the stream where we talk about gay shit in modern time.
Yeah, which is kind of nice because I feel like we'll all have more personally to draw from about them.
Yeah, which is interesting. Like, we've talked about characters in media, and we're talking about characters in indie development, and now it's sort of meshing into this weird mix of, like, mainstream appeal of characters and also indie development of characters are this really weird intertwined thing at this point, and the line is difficult to tell. Indie games are big games now.
Yeah.
A weird gay indie game that's a personal experience plugged into something like Tracker Mickey D's is so inherently... That's something that can be a hit. It's weird. Please say Sam Max or Sam Max aren't here. They're not gay. I wish they were.
I think they are.
I'm sorry to disappoint you all. You're going to be really mad about the next one.
What's the next one?
You're going to be really mad about the next one.
The next one is...
Oh, you're not. You're not. You're going to like this one.
Madeline from...
my orders are wrong. My orders are wrong.
Patisserie. Delicious pastry.
So this loops back around to exactly what I was talking about with Tracker Mickey D's. The big thing with Celeste is where it's an experience game. Don't go with the one you're mad at. You do think you know what the next one is.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's right. So Qweave doesn't know anything about Celeste.
I don't.
The big thing with Celeste is that the dev of Celeste, I believe, transitioned after the development and release of the video game.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's right. I might be wrong about that.
Don't quote us on that, I guess.
I'm double checking, but I'm 90% sure that's right.
Because the article
someone can correct me.
Very early in that process. It's an article,
but I'm pretty positive.
My gender identity isn't very.
Mountains of research went.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
No, because I just want to make sure I didn't read that wrong.
Okay.
The transition
because the article that I'm going at is very early in that process. It's an article by the dev talking about my gender identity isn't very figured, like all figured out.
Anything to do with it,
but. The point is that the transition happened after the release of the video game, and
it was not intended to be what the
video game itself was not intended to have anything to do with it.
About personal
but
experience,
the narrative of the video game after the release of the original game, but before the release of the chapter,
get in a video game.
It was not intended to be what the video game was about, but the video game, by nature of being about personal experience, is the most explicitly trans-narrative you could
I can't talk about that
in a video game.
Played it.
It's exceedingly personal,
where
and
the whole
perspective that you put onto that as a dev is finding out who you are and not being able to face yourself.
I do
and
think
like
that's
that,
a key point,
and
Fluxter. I can't
your
talk about
perception of yourself as a person. And there's
just
all
the
these
plot
points
point.
in it where the whole idea of Celeste
It's
is
just
like
the plot point of this is what
finding out who you are and not
at a
being
certain
able to face
point,
yourself
the dev
and
being
things
like,
like that. And
okay,
your perception of yourself as a person.
I think
and
I'm
it's just
trans,
the plot point.
and then you look at the whole video
It's
game
just the
behind
plot
it,
point
and
of
suddenly
this
it
is what
takes
we're
on a
thinking.
different identity.
And
Where
at a certain point, the dev being where you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Where the thoughts that you have to be thinking about are still coming through, and I think that makes Celeste like a really interesting piece.
I was
of
going to
work
say,
where-
I think it's interesting to make something that
Where you're
may,
like,
in
oh,
fact,
that kinda
be
makes
a little
sense.
bit subconsciously influenced by
where
your
the
own
thoughts that you
personal
have to be
internal
thinking
journey
about
while
are
you're
still
making
coming
it,
through, and I
even
think
though that journey
makes
is a
Celeste like a
completely
really
unrelated
interesting.
thing.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
line
I
up
think
with
it's
your,
interesting
you know,
to make something.
Yeah, and they
in
specifically
fact
say
be
it's not
a
like
little
supposed to
bit
be like that. Like the game wasn't intended to be like, oh, this is about being trans, but it's just like coincidentally the feelings that I was having. It's like the feelings that you were having while playing through a game are inherently tied to the feelings that you're going through yourself.
The game wasn't intended to be like, oh, this is about
And confronting that with the actual video game is so interesting to me because it's like the feelings that you were having. Out of all of these games, I don't think any of them, except maybe Jill-Off, which ironically is a very similar video game in a weird way, work the gameplay and story of it into the inherent like queer narrative. Like, none of these are explicitly queer narrative games. It's not about, like, the thoughts of it. The ones that you get are probably the Anthropy ones, which is a really interesting little bleed together. If Celeste came out, like, 8 years ago, fucking Madeline could have been in Super Meat Boy as a crossover skin.
This is actually extremely true. Do we want to move on to our final two?
I think I will. And also, I think I'm going to post my text document about this at the very end, so that you can all have all of these sources and shit that I've saved out.
Hooray! The Discord's gonna be popping after this. You're gonna see a lot of interesting shit there. All right.
This one you're gonna
Second to last. Second to last.
This one you're gonna hate. You're going to hate this one. It's Soldier 76
We're
from
all
Overwatch.
gay men now. Soldier 76 from Overwatch.
It's Soldier 76 from
The
Overwatch.
beloved gay man, Soldier 76 from Overwatch.
You're saying LOL, you're saying he counts, not even Tracer.
The first instance of fucking gay washing.
So the reason why this is here, the first reason why this is here, is to look through all of this. From fucking Birdo to Jolly Roger to Sierra Sam
There's
to
so
fucking
many
Ike.
interesting stories here.
No,
so many
no, not even that.
things. Yeah.
The whole fucking concept of the reception of these video games. Birdo is a story of a character that's rapidly and extremely being like pushed back to be like, we don't know what to do with you. Poison, we don't know what to do with you. Tony, you can't make him gay. The killer, they have to be an antagonist. There's something that's referenced to Psycho, etc. Gay indie game, you're shut down. Every single one is abandonware. M.U.L.E, we won't work with you now that you're trans. Every single thing is nothing. Overwatch 2 is branding itself on being the pro-gay one. Unlike Gay Tony, which is saying, here's a gay character. Soldier 76 and Overwatch as a whole is a representation of all of the video games right now. They're trying to say, we want to have a gay character now. Which, you have to look at fucking everything. Even so far, Soldier 76 is not the fucking Jolly Roger of the bottom row. Even if you look at something like, let's say fucking, what's it called? Let me pick one out of a hat, dude. Let's say that you get something like fucking, let's say Poison.
Yes, good old Poison.
If you take Poison and you see what they've done to make sure that that character isn't queer, you do everything in your power to say this is not a queer character. She's too sexy. We don't want to upset anyone.
You seem borderline terrified at the idea of her being queer as a developer.
And that reflection as an industry leader and saying we don't want anything to do with this. To a video game that comes out, and I don't give a shit how fucking popular it is, I don't give a shit how whatever. The idea of saying, oh, we're going to make a character gay as a marketing ploy. The fact that happens is crazy.
Is this...
The fact that we live in a point where it's not even gay by committee, because there are people who are really passionate about it. And there's things that are happening, like, with Soldier 76, what's interesting is this didn't go without, like, fucking cost. When they released Soldier 76 as gay, this is a really fun fact that I didn't know about until I was going through it.
What is it?
I think it was 30%. Immediately following being revealed as gay, there was a 30% drop in pick rate from Soldier 76.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, that makes sense given the target audience of that character's playstyle. That's so interesting.
A lot of players in video game said it wasn't that he was gay, it was that they had discrimination from other players for playing Soldier. And they got tired of homophobic slurs and constant harassment and temporarily switched different characters to play it.
Oh my god.
Which is something that you wouldn't think. That's even crazier. That's what I mean.
That's bizarre. You're playing the gay
even
character!
Though, like, as much as it feels like, oh yeah, I don't give a shit, they're just fucking throwing a gay character in there to do something.
It still had an effect.
You have to remember that people are still fucking homophobic.
Yeah, people suck, actually, still. It's interesting.
People are very bad. Like, this sounds like a weird social experiment. It's something that you have to remember where it's something like Soldier 76, Tracer, whatever, any sort of character that exists, just be like, hey, we have a gay character in our video game, look at us. You have to remember how big of a fucking footstep that is, dude.
It's interesting to me because it feels like on one hand, the fact that Soldier 76 was suddenly made gay in a very strange, offhanded way.
As like a pride event, functionally.
The fact that that happens at all is a bizarre and kind of confusing mix of, like, I guess it feels good solely in the sense of it's neat that as a society, you as a giant corporation can decide this guy's gay because people will like that, I guess.
Yeah.
That's unusual, that's unheard of, but at the same time, it is a weird approach to that thing.
And what's interesting about the Soldier one specifically, which is why I kept him here instead of Tracer, is one, that statistic drop did not happen for Tracer. She went up. Tracer went up, but Soldier 76 being gay went him down.
People were not fond of gay
People
men.
There's such an interesting little thing where it's the parallel of the sexy lesbian.
I was
alongside
thinking about this. Yes.
No, because it's the gay for horny and the gay for gay, which is weird because Soldier fans are also gay for horny. But in a completely different way that doesn't parallel with that. And it's interesting to like pay attention to that. Similarly interesting, that dip in pick rate disappeared after 4 months. So after things died down, people don't give a shit.
Yeah.
People are reflective. It's just an aspect of it.
Yeah, when you were talking about making the roster for this, I explicitly said that Soldier 76 would be maybe a slightly more interesting pick than Tracer, because everyone knows Tracer's gay. It's like, I think, the classic one that everyone goes to. But also, when I think of gay characters in games, and when you were occasionally asking me to suggest stuff, every single character that I could think of that is notable, it is very heavily lesbian driven. There are a trillion lesbian characters, which is good, but it's also
great.
hard to shake the feeling that, and CJ said this in chat, it's hard to shake the feeling that a big part of it is because, and I remember this so distinctly from when I was like a teenager, it was a bizarre thing that tons of straight guys would do, where they would be genuine, they would just be homophobic. They would hate gay men, but then they'd be like, but lesbians are fucking hot, so that shit's fine. And I think that as a general reaction to that, you saw a lot more lesbians in a lot more media than gay men, because you could kind of get away with it because people like that would allow themselves to not become like weird and violent upon seeing them. You have a lot more, just statistically speaking, lesbian characters than gay men characters. If you look at a full list of every gay character in video games, it's the ratio is interesting to look at. But I don't think it's because, lesbians are everywhere or whatever. I don't think it's because like lesbians are being pandered to or whatever. I think it's because straight guys are being pandered to. And it's cool that lesbians get something out of it, I guess. Like, you can't be mad about that part, but it is also really hard to not feel like the heart is in distinctly the wrong place for a lot of that.
Definitely. Which is why you see, like, there are a lot of characters that are explicitly lesbian. We look at fucking Ike. Ike is, like, this little mystery character. There is a lesbian in that video game.
Yeah.
You look at Poison, they're so fucking scared about what to do. They'll be like, yeah, Jury might fuck women. Would that be crazy?
Yeah, you can't...
Well, she took her shoes off while she did it, too.
Yeah, you can't have a character who is very clearly, like, a trans-coded character be trans, but you can do this thing where you're constantly, like, dangling the idea of women fucking each other in front of your weird, mostly straight dude audience, and they all clap and cheer and get super hype about it. And I do think it's a shame. I think it is a shame, because it does leave certain groups of people underrepresented in comparison.
I want to read a quote from CJ, which I'm glad you brought this up. This is a common misconception. Blizzard bought King, the Candy Crush devs, told them to make the diversity chart tool, and then in testing based it on Overwatch's cast without telling anyone on the Overwatch team.
Still very funny. I actually think that makes it even funnier.
Funny. It's extremely funny.
Yeah, Whoa, you're actually
the
right.
Overwatch team is also so fucking funny because there's so many queer devs on that team that are very explicitly like, yeah, we want to do representation things. And then Blizzard fucks them over at every single opportunity.
It's awesome. I think Clodier in chat is also spitting something that's kind of funny that I have noticed. There are a lot of lesbian romance options in games compared to gay male romance options, and how many fucking times have you heard the strange straight gamer say, well, I pick a girl character because I like to fucking jack off while I play?
Yeah, no, true. True.
Very commonly cited thing. And it's really unfortunate that, again, it is hard to shake the idea that some of those lesbian romance options exist heavily for that crowd and not for people who want a lesbian romance option because it resonates more with them. And the way some of them are written are clearly written in the way that would be very appealing to, like, straight romance. And
who's going to be the last character? Go on, please.
And really, I think the topic of romancing characters is very interesting.
It's funny, because ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering who our last pick is.
Chat for bearing with us for over 4 hours of this lecture. The last member of the Gale roster is you!
It's you! And not literally you. Not literally you because you're gay. We're not just calling you gay.
This is the player.
This is the player. We live in a queer player era right now. If you can talk about this, I'm going to run the bathroom and listen and continue talking.
Okay. People in chat were saying something very interesting earlier, literally 3 hours ago, which is, there is a term you see thrown around a lot recently called player sexual. And it is the idea that you see occur very frequently, especially in RPG games, that every single character who is in your party is bisexual. No matter who you are, you can romance anybody you want, because your character is also, I guess, inherently, you know, into whatever. And it's led to a very interesting situation where it is, and this is just me spitting opinions. Like I said, I'm only here for opinions. If Boot has any interesting things to say that are based on fact, he can say them when he finishes doing his business. But, it leads to an interesting situation where, on one hand, it's pretty cool, I guess. I can sit down and I can play Baldur's Gate 3, and everybody wants me no matter what. But also, it leads to a weird situation where sexuality is actually kind of murkily defined among a lot of recent characters who I guess technically you could call queer, right? And I think that's why putting you on the list is better than putting any distinct party member from a Baldur's Gate or from a Mass Effect or a Dragon Age, because ultimately you kind of decide if your party members are gay in a weird way.
Yeah. Someone says this is kind of Stardew Valley is like the player sexual game, Genie, though. Although I guess The Sims 2 is kind of. I think The Sims is also, because that's kind of where that came from, where they talked about with The Sims. It's the idea of, okay, yeah, but you have to choose for that to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say...
You can make anyone gay, but you have to let it happen.
Sims...
I think the difference is that The Sims doesn't have characters.
Yeah, The Sims feels like it's the origin of this, but also The Sims, just due to its historical importance and that idea being a total outlier at the time, obviously deserves its own section. There's nothing really exactly like it. I feel like the way that we think of this particular theme is recently occurring. Yeah, it has
which is again
qualities.
Yeah, it has ups and downs of it. Because for the same way that every character that would just be straight is now gay, now every character that could have been a gay character is also straight for somebody. Which is everyone's in a poison situation.
Yes, that's actually a really great way to put it. It kind of leads to a strange zone where everyone is kind of everything and nothing at the same time, and it depends on who's playing the video game, and it leads to almost a lack of representation in some ways. I felt this really heavily. This is my personal experience with this, right? Just because we were talking about these. I played Baldur's Gate 3. You cannot tell me that little Astarion guy is gonna be
No, that's such a good
woman.
example.
What are you talking about? That is a gay man. That is a gay man. And the fact that he can just be a straight guy if you want him to be is really weird to me.
I never even thought about that.
You can straight wash characters who feel like they're explicitly gay coded because of the rise of player sexuality working both for and against the idea of queerness in a video game.
I think that's the main thing with it, is that it feels like it's less of a characterization and more just like, yeah, we don't want a character to be like one thing.
Yeah. I've heard very recently in a lot of little gay circles there is a level of I would say controversy around the player's sexual label, and a lot of people have been kind of almost yearning for a return to characters with distinct identities that do not just like, yo, what's this song? This is the house building song from Red Dead Redemption 2. It goes fucking crazy. That game has no gay people in it, unfortunately.
Cyberpunk 27 made a lot of really bad decisions, depictions of gay people, but something it did right was give all the characters defined sexualities. Yeah, and no, this isn't us being terrible that everything has.
This is what I was gonna say. This is what I was trying to say, right? Is I've seen some people vie for the return of, clearly defined sexualities being a bit more frequently occurring in these kinds of games. But at the same time, someone else in chat already said one of the Fire Emblem games has one love interest if you are a gay man. And that's it. You literally do not get an option. If you are a person who is a man and you identify as you're gay, you get one fucking choice if you want to pursue a romance. And it's such a strange place where you get more freedom, but also at the same time, it can make some characters feel odd. But one thing we can all agree on is you, the player.
Damn, dude.
I
think you, the player, have come a long way.
You, the player, have come a long way. That's our roster.
That's our roster. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our whole lineup. You're so used to player sexual games, you were shocked when B and Night in the Woods could be romanced. Notorious straight character, B Night in the Woods.
Notorious straight character, B Night in the Woods. There are lots of honorable mentions that could be.
Yeah, this could be.
Up.
This could be a fucking brawl roster, dude.
Well, maybe next Pride we'll make an expansion pack. Who knows? But I think
we do have some fan art. Fun stream. I want to thank you, everybody, for coming and watching us. I hope this was fun. It was a ton of work to, like, dig through.
You want to put your swimsuit back on?
Yeah, I will. Hold on.
Whoa.
It was a ton of work to, like...
Happy summer, everybody.
Get everything together. Literally, like, 3 streams of pushback. Everybody showed up, which makes me really, really psyched. Yeah, everyone else was really well put together. It's like, there's a lot of stuff. It's mostly, if anything was left off of this list, I want it to be there for, I want it to just be examples, right? I'm not thinking of it as, this is the only gay characters. Like, I think I was talking to a friend about how there's a lot of visual novel characters or characters in Japanese games that did not show up because don't feel qualified to talk about either of them. This is a great stream. Thank you for doing so much time researching. Thank you!
Yeah, I think that ultimately it's literally impossible to get to everything if you're sad that a character you like is not on the list. Do you see how many characters that we went through and how many eras that are covered? How many distinct people who made art that we talked about? I think that it's just not possible to put everyone that matters to everyone on one little list like this.
Yeah.
But also...
Especially when I'm focusing... Mostly what this is focusing on is who has, like, a really interesting story that I could talk about here. And I think that it's a pretty good collection of it.
We have... Let me see, where's my window? we have from Popgun Arcade. Happy Pride, Qweave peeps. I think this is extremely cute. I love this.
I really like this. This is so cute, dude.
The rare blue.
Oh fuck, we got like
colored
everyone here.
boot silhouette. What the heck?
The cyan boot.
I do love
Come
seeing
on, zoom in.
everyone is here, kind of.
I want to take a peek.
Oh god, it zoomed in so far.
That did zoom in so far. Who's purple?
Who is purple? Is this
My depth fluid still seem okay.
Hold on. Is purple Tyler?
You'll never know.
Alright, I'll never know.
We'll never know.
Oh, I know most of these people. Thank you.
You?
Okay, that was it's Ace.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought it was Ace.
That
I
makes
truly did.
sense. That makes sense. From. Oh god, sorry, I'm scrolling. From Puppy. From
Orange is
Puppy.
you. You know, I kind of assumed so.
I
Believe
did
it or
assume
not.
so. We have a horrifying depiction of Kuma and his
This is Kuma from
nightmarish
Tekken.
state in Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
When Street Fighter Cross Tekken before Glad stepped
But
in.
we have good news, everybody. It's no longer. Don't call me Kuma. Call me Kumi.
Kumi? Qweave is making a reference to a Birdo phone game, by the way. Qweave is not doing like this is what Kuma would sound like if they were trans suddenly.
No, this is a reference.
There is a Birdo character select in a
I think it's a
Mario
bootleg-
mobile game, in a bootleg Mario phone game.
where Birdo says,
where-
"Don't call me Birdo, call me Birdie." Thank you.
Good for Kuma. Honestly, good for Kuma.
And
Big
our
dubs.
last thing of the night from Mockroach.
Yay!
Yay! I like the.
I like Pride
unchanged.
Carry.
Pride Carry looks.
I like
kinda
NB
cool.
Perry. NB Curry.
NB Flag has actually a pretty good palette. I think
It's
an
pretty cute.
underrated palette.
I always like it. I've always liked it.
I think it's an underrated palette. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm sorry if I am sounding low energy at all of these cool fan arts. We have been streaming for a long time, and
We have been streaming for a long
feel
time.
like I've been streaming for a very long time. Thank you all for coming out tonight. This was very fun.
This was a blast. I'm glad that it went as well as it did.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride. Everyone go be yourself. Make a fucking video game.
Yeah, go make a video game or something.
Go make your foobar. Be your foobar, dude.
And then maybe in 30 years, someone will include one of your original characters in your video game in a stream just like this. I'm gonna roll credit. Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.